Hello, friends. Did you know nearly 80% of those who watch my videos aren't subscribed? If you enjoy these stories, please hit that subscribe button and leave a like. It really helps. Thank you for being here. By the way, where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. The route map sat on the passenger seat, creased at the folds, edges worn soft from handling. Cleo Bram's voice had come through the CB just before dawn, tired but clear, walking me through the day's run. Harlan, you're starting out of Prudhoe, south on Dalton, then west when you hit the junction. Convoys running single file, 2 miles between each rig. Storms coming in after noon. Copy that, I'd said. The engine rumbled to life beneath me, vibration working its way up through the seat. The trailer behind me was loaded heavy, weight distribution good. Chains wrapped tight around the tires, tension holding. On ice roads, you don't roll without chains. That's not preference, that's survival. Prudhoe Bay mornings always came up gray. Sun would rise eventually, but the light stayed trapped behind thick cloud cover, filtered down to something cold and flat. The temperature gauge read -30. Wind hadn't picked up yet, but you could feel it waiting. Snow fell without direction, heavy flakes dropping straight down. That's the snow that comes before storms. The convoy was 8 rigs total. I was number 4. 3 ahead of me, 4 behind. Everyone kept their CB open, but nobody talked much. Just Cleo checking in now and then for position updates and quick confirmations back. Rig 4, what's your 20? Mile marker 347, no issues, I'd answer. The road was clean. Packed snow with a salt and sand mix worked into it. Tire tracks showed clear and deep. First 2 hours passed smooth. Horizon was nothing but flat white meeting sky. I kept my eyes on the road, but the road was one long straight line. I checked my mirrors. Behind me, Rig 5's headlights hung back at distance, 2 dim points in the growing gray. Around mid-morning, the wind started. Gentle first, then building. Snow began to move horizontal. I switched on the fog lights. Visibility dropping. Cleo's voice crackled through. All rigs, storms ahead of schedule. Reduce speed, maintain distance. Next supply station is 40 miles out. Convoy slowed down. We went from 50 kilometers per hour to 30. The wind was pushing against the side of the rig now. Steering wheel pulled slightly right. I corrected. The trailer was heavy, and that was good. Heavy loads held better against wind. Light loads got pushed around. The road wasn't fully visible anymore. What I followed were the taillights of Rig 3 ahead of me. Red glow blurred in the snow. I kept the distance steady. 2 miles was long. I didn't want to lose him. A voice came through the CB. Static first, then something underneath it. Not Cleo, couldn't make it out. Sounded like someone speaking low, words broken up by interference. The channel was open, everyone could hear it. Nobody responded. The sound came again. Same rhythm, same broken cadence. Rig 4, you copy? Cleo's voice cut through. Copy, I said. Visibility's down, but I'm on track. Good, we're holding at the supply point. Everyone meets there. The wind was howling now, hitting the side of the cab in waves. Tire tracks were gone, buried. Road and shoulder looked identical. I followed those red taillights ahead, only reference point left. Checked the speedometer, 30. That was right. Then the red lights disappeared. Storm had thickened. I slowed more, 20, 15. Headlights only reached a few meters ahead, just white wall. I pressed the CB. Rig 3, what's your position? Static, long stretch of it. Then a voice, but it wasn't Cleo, wasn't Rig 3, that same whisper from before. Longer this time. Still couldn't make out the words, but there was a pattern to it. Same phrase repeating. I tried again. Rig 3, do you copy? Nothing but that whisper. It went on for maybe 10 seconds, then cut out completely. Dead air. My hands tightened on the wheel. I kept the speed steady, eyes locked on where the road should be. The fog lights carved out a short tunnel of visibility. Everything else was white noise, wind screaming, snow hitting the windshield in sheets. CB crackled. Harlan. It was Cleo. You still en route? Affirmative. Lost visual on rig 3, visibility near 0. Understood. He's still transmitting. You're both on track. Just keep your speed down and follow the lane markers if you can see them. Copy. But there were no lane markers anymore. Just instinct and the faint depression in the snow where the road should be. I'd run ice roads for 7 years. You develop a feel for it. The way the tires grip, the way the trailer pulls. You know when you're drifting off course. The wind hit a new level. Rig shuddered. I could hear metal groaning, chains rattling. Checked my mirrors, but I couldn't see anything behind me anymore either. Just gray and white, swirling, endless. That whisper came back on the CB, clearer now. Still broken, still distorted, but I caught a word this time. Might have been stop, might have been lost. Hard to tell through the static. It repeated twice, then faded. I didn't respond, just kept my focus on the road, on keeping the rig steady. My gut said something was wrong, but I couldn't identify what. Convoy protocol was simple. Stay in line, maintain distance, reach the checkpoint. Storm or no storm, that's what you did. Minutes stretched. Time felt strange when you couldn't see anything but white. Could have been 10 minutes, could have been 30. The heater hummed, dash lights glowed faint. I sipped cold coffee from a thermos, kept my breathing even. Then the road changed. Subtle at first. The tires sounded different. Less crunch, more smooth glide. Ice. We'd hit a section of pure ice, probably a frozen creek bed or overflow from the lake system that ran through this region. I eased off the gas, let momentum carry me. No braking, no sudden moves. The trailer swayed slightly. I corrected, gentle pressure on the wheel. Chains bit in, held. Good. I exhaled, slow. CB came alive again. Cleo's voice. All rigs, heads up. You're approaching the lake crossing. Road runs straight over the ice for about 3 miles. It's rated safe, convoy's done it 100 times. Just keep your speed under 20 and stay in the tracks. Lake crossing. I knew this one. Kivalina Lake, wide and shallow, froze solid every winter. The ice road cut straight across it, saved 40 miles of detour. Engineers checked the thickness regularly. It was safe. But driving over a frozen lake always felt wrong. Something primal about it. You're trusting 2 feet of ice to hold 70,000 pounds of steel and cargo. You're trusting that the water below, dark and cold, stays where it is. I could see the transition ahead. The tree line ended. The landscape opened up into flat nothing. White on white. No depth perception. The fog lights barely helped. I was driving blind, trusting the route. The tires hit the lake ice. Sound changed again, hollow. Almost echoing. The wind was worse out here, nothing to break it. It slammed into the rig from the side, constant pressure. I gripped the wheel tighter, kept the speed down. Halfway across, maybe a mile and a half in, I caught something in my peripheral vision. Left side. I glanced at the driver's side mirror. Nothing. Just white. Looked ahead again. There it was, a flicker. Something moving parallel to me just outside the range of the lights. I slowed down more, 15 kilometers per hour. Looked again. Still there, shape in the snow, keeping pace. Could have been another rig, could have been blown debris. Hard to tell. Then it was gone, just wind and snow. My chest felt tight. I adjusted my grip on the wheel, rolled my shoulders. Fatigue, probably. Stress. Staring into white nothing for hours plays tricks on your eyes. I'd seen it before. Shadows that weren't there, shapes in the storm that dissolved when you looked direct. The CB hissed, that whisper again. Longer now, almost rhythmic. I could hear the shape of words, the cadence, but meaning stayed just out of reach. It felt deliberate, like someone speaking just under the threshold of understanding. "Cleo, you catching this interference?" I asked. Pause, then her voice. "Say again?" The static. Someone's transmitting something, but it's all broken up. Another pause. "I'm not hearing anything unusual on my end, Harlan. Could be local interference from the storm. Metal particles in the air. Northern lights sometimes cause it too." Copy. But I knew what I heard, and it wasn't random static. The ice beneath me made a sound. Deep. Low frequency, like groaning metal, but organic. Ice shifts, that's normal. Temperature changes, pressure from wind, the lake adjusting beneath its frozen surface. I knew that, but this sound was long, sustained, and it seemed to follow the length of the rig as I moved forward. I checked the mirrors again. Nothing behind me, nothing beside me. Just storm. Then I saw the light, faint, underneath, flickering through the ice like there was something below reflecting the rig's headlights back up. But that didn't make sense. The ice was thick, opaque. Light doesn't bounce like that. I blinked, focused, still there, moving. Shifting position slightly, staying under the trailer, following. My hands were sweating inside my gloves. I told myself it was reflection, refraction, some optical effect caused by layers of ice and snow and the angle of the lights. That's all it was. The groaning sound came again. Louder. I felt it through the seat, through the wheel. The rig's suspension absorbed it, but it was there. Deep vibration, like something large shifting position below. I wanted off this lake. "Cleo, how much further to the far side?" "About a mile. You're making good time." A mile. I kept the speed steady, didn't accelerate. Rushing on ice was how people died. I knew that, but every instinct said, "Move faster." The whisper on the CB came back, and this time I heard it clearly. "Stop." Just that one word. Clear as anything. No static, no distortion. A man's voice low and urgent. "Stop." I didn't stop. I kept going. Protocol said keep moving, reach the checkpoint. Stopping on a frozen lake in a whiteout was suicide. If something was wrong with the rig, I'd know. Engine sounded fine, no warning lights, no mechanical issues. But that voice. I pressed transmit. "Identify yourself." No response. Just wind noise through the speaker. I tried again. "This is Rig 4. If someone's transmitting, identify yourself." Still nothing. The light under the ice flickered again. Closer to the cab now, almost directly beneath me. I could see it in the side mirror, faint blue-white glow that pulsed irregularly. My breathing was shallow. I forced myself to inhale deep, exhale slow. Focus on what's real. The road, the wheel, the gauges. Everything functional. Everything normal. The tree line appeared ahead, dark shapes emerging from the white. I was approaching the far side of the lake. Relief hit me hard. 30 more seconds and I'd be back on solid ground, trees on either side, real road beneath the tires. The CB crackled, Cleo's voice, but distant, hard to hear. "Harlan, position. Say again, Cleo?" Static, Then another voice. Not Cleo. Not the whisper. This one was different. Familiar. Harlan, it's Miles. Miles Reddick. Ran supply logistics out of the Coldfoot station. I'd met him a few times. Good guy, knew the routes. Miles, what are you doing on this channel? Got a report from a spotter. There's a pressure crack developing on Kivalina. You need to move now. Pressure crack. When ice shifts and breaks apart, creates an opening. In seconds, road becomes water. I press the accelerator, not much, just enough to build speed without losing traction. 20 kilometers per hour. 25. How far? I asked. Unknown. Just get clear. The tires grabbed, chains dug in. I could see the shoreline clearly now. 50 meters, 40. That groaning sound came back, but this time it was sharp. Crack. Loud enough to hear over the engine, over the wind. The ice was moving. 30 meters. Another crack. The trailer lurched slightly, left side dipping. I corrected, kept the wheel steady, didn't brake. 20 meters. The light below surged bright, just for a second. Like something large passing directly beneath, reflecting light back up through the ice. Then it was gone. 10 meters. Tires hit gravel and packed snow. Solid ground. I was off the lake. I didn't slow down until I'd put another 100 meters between me and that ice. Then I eased off, brought the speed back down, checked the mirrors. The lake behind me looked the same. White, flat, endless. No visible cracks, no dark water showing through. My hands were shaking. I flexed my fingers, gripped the wheel tighter. Miles, I'm clear. No response. Miles, do you copy? Static. Cleo, you there? Her voice came back, clear. Still here, Harlan. Everything okay? Miles just warned me about a pressure crack on the lake. Pause. Miles Reddick? Yeah. Longer pause. Harlan, Miles is at Coldfoot. He's not on convoy operations today. Are you sure you heard him? My stomach dropped. I heard him. He told me to get off the lake. I'll check with the station, but there's no pressure crack reported. Ice surveys came back solid this morning. You're sure you're okay? I looked at the lake in my rearview mirror. Empty. Quiet. The storm was still heavy, but the ice looked stable. Nothing moving, nothing breaking. I'm fine, I said. Just, the storm's getting to me. Copy that. You're about 15 miles from the supply point. Take it slow, we're all waiting. I drove the next 15 miles in silence. Didn't touch the CB, didn't look at the mirrors more than necessary. Just focused on the road, on the tree line, on the solid ground beneath me. When I finally pulled into the supply station, 3 other rigs were already there. I parked, killed the engine, sat in the cab for a minute. Just breathing. Just being still. The door to the supply station opened. Cleo stepped out, clipboard in hand, waving me over. I climbed down, legs stiff, and walked across the lot. She met me halfway. You look like you've seen a ghost, she said. I didn't answer. Didn't know how to explain what I'd heard, what I'd seen. The whisper, Miles' voice, the light under the ice. Where are the others? I asked. Rig 3 pulled in about 20 minutes ago. 5 and 6 are 10 minutes out. Everyone's accounted for. What about 1 and 2? She checked her clipboard. Still en route. Should be here within the hour. I nodded, looked back at my rig, then at the road beyond. The storm was still going, wind still howling. But standing here on solid ground, surrounded by lights and buildings and other people, it all felt distant, manageable. Cleo touched my arm. You need anything? Coffee? You can rest inside if you want. I'm good, I said. Just need to stretch my legs. She nodded and headed back inside. I walked the perimeter of the lot, checking my trailer, running my hands along the chains, looking for anything out of place. Everything was tight. Everything was normal. But when I looked north, back toward the route I'd just driven, back toward that frozen lake somewhere in the storm, I felt it again. That wrongness. That sense that something out there had followed me across the ice, had watched me drive, had spoken to me through static and wind. I went inside, got coffee, sat in the corner of the supply station's break room, warming my hands on the cup. Other drivers trickled in over the next hour. Everyone looked tired, wind-beaten, ready for the next leg. Rig 1 and 2 never showed up. Cleo spent 30 minutes on the radio trying to raise them. Nothing. She called dispatch. They tried from their end. Still nothing. 2 hours after scheduled arrival time, she organized a search. 3 rigs went back out, slow convoy, retracing the route. I didn't go. Told myself I was too tired, that I'd just done the run, that fresh drivers made more sense. But really, I didn't want to go back out there. Didn't want to cross that lake again. They found rig 6 miles north of the lake crossing. Stopped on the shoulder, engine off, driver not inside. No sign of struggle, no footprints leading away. Just an empty cab and a full trailer. Rig 2 was worse. They found it 3 miles further, partially through the ice on a shallow section of lake nobody used for crossing. The ice around it was broken in a perfect circle, like something had pulled from underneath. The driver was still inside, hypothermia, unconscious but alive. They pulled him out, got him to emergency services. He didn't remember stopping, didn't remember leaving the main route, didn't remember driving onto that section of ice, said he'd heard a voice on the radio, telling him to turn, telling him the road was blocked, telling him to follow. I heard about all of this later, after I'd finished my run, after I delivered my load and made it back to base. Cleo called me personally, told me what they'd found, asked if I'd heard anything unusual during my leg. I told her about the whisper, about the voice that said, "Stop," about Miles Reddick warning me. She went quiet. Then she said, "Miles never radioed anyone that day. I checked with Coldfoot. He wasn't even on duty." I didn't sleep well that night, or the next. Kept hearing that whisper. Kept seeing that light under the ice. Kept wondering what would have happened if I'd stopped when the voice told me to. Would I have been rig 1, empty and abandoned? Would I have been rig 2, circled by broken ice, pulled toward something dark and cold below? I don't know, and I'm not eager to find out. Next run I take across Kivalina Lake, I'm keeping my CB off. I'm following the convoy tight, and I'm not stopping for anything. Not for voices, not for lights, not even if someone I know tells me to. 3 days later, I was back on the road. Same route, different cargo. Dispatch needed someone familiar with the lake crossing, someone who'd run it recent. I didn't mention what happened last time. Didn't tell them about the whispers or the lights, or how 2 drivers went missing. That information was already in the reports. Saying it again wouldn't change anything. Cleo's voice came through the CB at 0600 hours. "Harlan, you're solo this run, no convoy, just you and the load. Weather's holding, forecast says clear until evening." "Copy," I said. Solo runs paid better, but they left you exposed. No backup, no other rigs to follow if conditions changed. Just you and the road. The temperature had dropped since last week, minus 38 now. Cold enough that diesel gels if you're not running fuel additives. Cold enough that metal gets brittle, that exposed skin freezes in under a minute. I'd doubled up on layers, thermal base, fleece mid, heavy parka on top, gloves rated for Arctic work. Still felt the cold seeping in around the edges. I left Prudhoe just after dawn. Sky was that same flat gray, but visibility was decent. I could see the road ahead, could make out the tree line on either side. The rig handled smooth. Chains bit into the packed snow, tires gripped solid. First hour passed without incident. Mile marker 280. Cleo checked in. Harlan, status? On schedule. Roads clean. Good. Fuel, stop at marker 220 if you need it. Next, check in at marker 180. Copy. I settled into the rhythm. Watch the road, check the mirrors, monitor the gauges. Engine temp holding steady, fuel consumption normal. The heater kept the cab warm enough, but I could still see my breath when I exhaled hard. The windshield had a thin layer of frost on the inside corners, despite the defrost running full. Around marker 260, the wind picked up. Not storm level, just steady pressure from the north. The kind that makes the rig lean slightly. Makes you adjust your steering every few seconds. I'd driven through worse. This was manageable. But the sky was changing. That flat gray was darkening, clouds stacking up thick. The forecast had said clear. Forecasts were wrong sometimes, especially this far north. Weather moved fast up here, systems appeared out of nowhere. By marker 240, the first snowflakes hit the windshield. Small, dry, blown horizontal by the wind. I switched on the wipers, turned up the defrost. Visibility still okay, maybe half a mile ahead. I could see the road, could see the marker posts on the shoulder. Cleo's voice crackled through. Harlan, we're seeing weather develop on radar. How's it looking out there? Snow starting, wind steady, still got good visibility. Copy. If it gets worse, there's a pullout at marker 230. You can wait it out if needed. Understood. I kept going. The snow thickened gradually. Not a sudden whiteout, just a steady increase. Visibility dropped to a quarter mile, then less. I reduced speed, 50 down to 40 kilometers per hour. The wipers worked overtime, sweeping snow off the windshield in constant rhythm. Marker 230 came up. The pullout was there. A wide shoulder with reflective posts marking the safe zone. I considered stopping, weighed the options. Storm might pass quick, might last hours. Sitting still in Arctic cold meant keeping the engine running, burning fuel. Moving meant risking conditions getting worse. I decided to keep going. The road was still visible. The rig was handling fine. I'd run through worse. That's when the CB started acting up. Static bursts, irregular and sharp. I adjusted the squelch, tried changing channels. Static followed, not constant, just periodic, like someone keying the mic without speaking. Cleo, you copy? Static. Dispatch, this is Rig 4, radio check. More static, then her voice broke through, choppy. Copy, signal weak. Say again, signal's breaking up. Weather interference. Check in, marker 180. Then dead air. I tried again. Nothing. The radio was working, lights were on, but I couldn't raise anyone. Storm interference probably, magnetic fields, atmospheric conditions, it happened. I'd driven plenty of miles without radio contact. It was uncomfortable, but not dangerous. I focused on the road. The snow was heavy now, visibility down to maybe 100 meters. I could barely see the marker posts. The wipers struggled, ice building up on the blades. I hit the washer fluid, watched it spray across the windshield. It started to freeze almost immediately, creating smears that the wipers dragged across the glass. Speed down to 30. The road was still there, I could feel it under the tires. That subtle difference between packed snow and loose shoulder. You learn to read it through the steering wheel, through the way the rig responds. Then I saw something ahead, shape in the snow, dark. I slowed more, peering through the windshield. As I got closer, it resolved. A vehicle, pulled off to the side, hazard lights flashing weak through the storm. I eased the rig to a stop, left it idling, grabbed my flashlight, opened the door. The wind hit me like a physical force, stealing breath. I pulled my hood tight, climbed down. The vehicle was a pickup truck, old model, covered in snow. I approached, cautiously swept my flashlight beam across it. No one inside. Door was closed but not locked. I pulled it open. Keys still in the ignition. Fuel gauge showed half full. No sign of struggle, no blood, nothing obviously wrong. But the driver was gone. In this storm, on foot, that was a death sentence. You don't leave a warm vehicle in -40 weather unless something's very wrong or you're not thinking clearly. I checked the truck bed. Empty except for snow. Looked around the immediate area, sweeping the flashlight in wide arcs. No footprints visible. Snow was coming down too hard, covering everything in minutes. Back to my rig. I tried the CB again. Dispatch, this is Rig 4. I've got an abandoned vehicle at approximately marker 225. Pickup truck, engine cold, no driver present, requesting guidance. Static. Nothing else. I sat there, engine idling, heater running, staring at that truck through the snow. Protocol said, keep moving. You can't help someone you can't find, and stopping too long in a storm was its own risk. But leaving felt wrong. I gave it 5 more minutes. Kept the flashlight on, pointed out the driver's window. If someone was out there, they'd see the light. They'd come. Nobody came. I put the rig in gear, pulled back onto the road. Checked my mirror. The truck's hazard lights blinked weakly, then disappeared into the storm. The wind was stronger now, gusting hard enough to rock the rig. I gripped the wheel tighter, corrected constantly. The road was getting harder to see. I was driving more by feel than sight, trusting the tires of my days, trusting the weight distribution. CB crackled. I grabbed for it, hoping for Cleo. It wasn't Cleo. That whisper was back, clearer than last time. Words almost recognizable. Same rhythm, same broken pattern. It went on for maybe 15 seconds, then cut out. My heart rate spiked. I keyed the mic. Identify yourself. Silence. This is Rig 4 on Dalton Highway. If someone's transmitting, identify yourself. The whisper came back, and this time I caught words. Off the road. Not safe. They're watching. Male voice. Distorted, like it was coming through damaged equipment or from very far away. But the words were there. Who's watching? I asked. What's your location? No answer, just that static hiss. I checked the rearview mirror. Nothing but white. Checked the side mirrors. Same. I was alone out here, or I should have been. But someone was transmitting close enough for the signal to reach me. The wind gusted hard. The rig shuddered, pushed right. I corrected. Felt the trailer sway. The chains were holding, tires gripping, but the wind was testing every limit. I needed to find shelter. Needed to get off this exposed stretch. Marker 210 appeared in my headlights. 10 miles since that abandoned truck. 20 miles to the lake crossing. I remembered the supply station on the far side, the warm break room, the coffee. Seemed very far away. The CB crackled again. This time, a different voice. Familiar. Harlan? I grabbed the mic. Miles? Harlan, you need to listen carefully. Miles, where are you? What's going on? You're not alone on that road. My blood went cold. What do you mean? Check your mirrors. Not the rear. Side mirrors. Watch for movement parallel to you. I looked, left mirror first, nothing but storm. Right mirror, same. Just white chaos, snow horizontal in the wind. I don't see anything, I said. Keep watching. It stays just outside your light range. Matches your speed. I focused on the right mirror. Stared into the storm. At first nothing, Then maybe a darkness in the white. Something moving. I couldn't be sure. Could have been my eyes playing tricks. Could have been wind-blown debris. Miles, I need your position. Are you behind me? I'm not on the road, Harlan. I'm at Coldfoot. But I'm seeing your tracker, and there's something wrong with the data. What kind of wrong? Your coordinates are jumping. 1 second you're on the main route, next second you're 300 meters east, then back. Like your GPS is glitching, or what? Or you're not where you think you are. I checked my GPS unit. It showed me on Dalton Highway, right where I should be. No jumping, no glitches. Steady line heading south. My GPS looks fine, I said. That's what worries me. Check your compass. I looked at the dashboard compass. It showed me heading south, which was correct. But as I watched, the needle twitched. Small movement just a few degrees east. Then back, then east again. Miles, my compass is acting strange. Magnetic interference. Could be the storm, could be geological, or it could be something else. What else? He didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was lower. There are stories about this stretch, old stories from before they built the road. Locals used to talk about areas where direction gets confused, where the normal rules don't quite apply. That's not helpful, Miles. I know, but I'm telling you what I know. The driver from Rig 2, the one they pulled from the ice, he's talking now, says he followed lights, says they led him off the main route, promised him a shortcut. He followed until he realized he was on the lake, and by then it was too late. What kind of lights? He described them as headlights, said he thought it was another rig, thought it was part of the convoy. But when he tried to raise them on CB, no one answered. They just kept moving, staying ahead of him, leading him further. I looked at the road ahead. My headlights cut through the snow, illuminating maybe 50 feet. Beyond that, nothing. If there were other lights out there, I wouldn't see them unless they were close. I'm about 20 miles from the lake crossing, I said. No other vehicles in sight. Good. When you reach the lake, stay on the marked route. Don't follow anything that's not clearly part of the road. Don't listen to voices telling you to turn. And Harlan? Yeah? Don't stop, not until you're across. The transmission ended. I tried calling back. No response. The CB was silent except for static. I drove for another 30 minutes. The storm showed no signs of letting up. If anything, it was getting worse. Wind speed had increased. Snow was coming down so thick the wipers could barely keep up. I was down to 15 kilometers per hour crawling forward. Then I saw them. Lights, ahead and to the right. Faint red glow through the snow. Taillights. My first instinct was relief. Another vehicle. I wasn't alone. But then I remembered Miles' warning. The driver from Rig 2 had followed lights. I slowed down more. 10 kilometers per hour. Watched those lights. They weren't moving, just sitting there off to the side. I grabbed the CB. Vehicle ahead. This is northbound Rig 4. Do you copy? Static. If you can hear me, flash your lights. The red glow stayed steady. No flash, no change. I crept forward, 50 meters, 40. The lights became clearer. They were tail lights, definitely. But something was wrong with them. They didn't look right. The red was too uniform, too bright for running lights in a storm. 30 meters. I could see the outline now, not a rig, smaller, maybe a truck, maybe an SUV. 20 meters, I hit my high beams trying to see better. The light reflected back, showed me what was there. It was the same pickup truck from before, same model, same position. Hazard lights flashing. But that was impossible. I'd passed that truck 20 miles back. I'd been driving south the whole time, never turned around, never deviated. There was no way I'd circled back. I checked my GPS. It showed me at marker 195, 15 miles south of where I'd seen the first truck. The route was a straight line, no curves, no loops, but there it was. Same truck, I was sure of it. Same rust pattern on the bumper, same cracked tail light on the left side. I grabbed my flashlight, started to open the door, then stopped. Miles had said not to stop, had warned me about getting off the road. But if this was the same truck, if somehow I'd gotten turned around, then I was heading the wrong direction. I needed to know. I kept the engine running, left the lights on, climbed down. The wind was brutal, worse than before. My flashlight beam barely penetrated the snow. I approached the truck, pulled open the driver's door. Empty, like before, keys in the ignition. But something was different. The seats. They were frozen solid, covered in a thick layer of ice, not the light frost you'd get from a few hours in the cold. This was deep ice, the kind that takes days to form. I checked the truck bed. Empty, same as before, but the metal was so cold it burned through my gloves when I touched it. This wasn't right. None of this was right. I backed away, kept my flashlight moving, scanning the area. That's when I saw them. Footprints leading away from the truck, heading into the storm. Fresh prints not yet filled with snow. Someone had just been here. Someone had just left. "Hello?" I called out. My voice was snatched away by wind. "Is anyone there?" No answer. The footprints led off into darkness, into the storm. I followed them with my flashlight beam. They went straight for about 10 meters, then curved. Not a natural walking pattern. Too deliberate, too geometric. Then they stopped. Just ended, mid-stride. No evidence of someone jumping, no disruption in the snow, just prints leading to nothing. I backed toward my rig, never taking my light off those prints, climbed up, locked the door, put it in gear, pulled away faster than I should have, tires spinning slightly before catching. I didn't look in the mirrors, didn't want to see if anything was following. The CB came alive. Cleo's voice, clear and strong. "Harlan, you copy." "Copy." My voice was shaky. "Where have you been? I've been trying to raise you for an hour." "Hour? Harlan, you checked in 20 minutes ago at marker 2:30. Everything okay?" 20 minutes? No, that's not right. I've been driving for... I looked at the clock on the dash. She was right. 20 minutes had passed since my last check-in, but it had felt like more. Much more. "I'm seeing an abandoned vehicle," I said. "Same one I saw earlier, but that's impossible." "Harlan, there's no abandoned vehicle on your route. We have aerial monitoring up. If there was a stranded vehicle, we'd see it. It's right there." I just walked around it. Pickup truck, marker 195. Pause. "Harlan, you're showing at marker 210, not 195. I checked my GPS. She was right. Marker 210. But I'd just seen the marker post. It had said 195. I was sure of it. "Something's wrong with my navigation," I said. "Your tracker looks fine from here. Clean signal, steady progress. You're 15 miles from the lake crossing. Stay en route, maintain speed. Weather should clear in another hour." "Copy." But I didn't trust it. Didn't trust the GPS, didn't trust my gauges, didn't trust anything except the feel of the road under my tires. The whisper came back on the CB. Louder this time. Multiple voices, overlapping. All saying different things, but the same rhythm. Same broken cadence. I switched off the CB. Complete silence except for the wind and the engine. The road curved slightly. I followed it, keeping my speed steady. The tree line appeared on my left. Good. Trees meant orientation, meant I was still on the main route. The lake crossing was open terrain, no trees for miles. But wait, the lake crossing was still ahead of me. There shouldn't be trees here yet. I checked the GPS again. Marker 200. 5 miles to the lake. But if I was 5 miles out, I should be seeing the terrain open up. should be seeing the trees thin out. Instead, they were getting thicker, closer to the road. The darkness between them seemed deeper than it should be. My headlights caught something. A shape moving between the trees, parallel to the road, matching my speed, just like Miles had warned. I accelerated 20 kilometers per hour, 25. The shape kept pace. I couldn't see details, just a darkness that moved wrong. Too fluid, too fast. 30, 35. The rig was at the edge of safe speed for these conditions, but I didn't care. I needed distance, needed to reach the lake, needed open terrain where I could see anything approaching. The trees broke. The landscape opened up, white flatness stretching out. The lake. I slowed down, brought it back to 20. The ice road entrance was marked with reflective posts, bright orange in my headlights. I lined up, double-checked the compass. South. Straight south across 3 miles of frozen lake. I glanced in the side mirror. The trees were behind me now. Nothing followed out onto the ice. I was alone. The tires hit lake ice. That hollow sound, that sense of fragility beneath tons of weight. I kept my breathing steady, kept my focus on the posts marking the route. 1 mile in, halfway. The storm was lighter out here, less windbreak. I could actually see further, maybe 200 meters. The far shore was invisible, but I could see the road ahead clear enough. 2 miles, 3/4 across. Almost there. The groaning started. Deep, resonant. The ice was shifting. Normal, I told myself. Ice always shifts. But this felt different. Felt like it was following me. Like the groaning tracked my movement across the surface. And then I saw it. In the side mirror, that light again, blue-white, pulsing under the ice, moving parallel, keeping pace. I gripped the wheel, kept going. Don't stop. Miles had said, don't stop. The light grew brighter. I could see it reflecting off the underside of the trailer. Could see the ice glowing in my mirrors. It was massive, whatever it was, spread out under the lake, tracking along beneath me. The far shore appeared. Tree line, solid ground. 500 meters, 400. The groaning intensified. The ice wasn't breaking, but it felt like it was alive. Responding, aware. 300 meters. 200. The light surged, bright enough that my mirrors went white. Then it dropped away, down into deeper water. Gone. The tires hit gravel. Packed snow. Solid ground. I was across. I didn't slow down until I'd put a mile between me and that lake. Then I pulled over, killed the engine, sat in silence. My hands were shaking. Whole body was shaking. I forced myself to breathe, to calm down. The CB was still off. I switched it back on. Cleo's voice immediately. "Harlan, you there? You went dark." "I'm here, across the lake, stopped at marker 180. "Copy. Everything okay?" Was it? I didn't know anymore. "Yeah," I said. "Just needed a minute. Storm got rough." "It's clearing now. Should be smooth running to the end point. Fuel station's 10 miles ahead if you need it." "Copy." I sat there for another 5 minutes, watched the mirrors. Nothing moved. No lights, no shapes, no whispers. Just storm wind dying down, snow easing off. Eventually, I started the engine. Got back on the road. Drove the remaining distance without incident. Reached the fuel station, topped off the tank, grabbed coffee from the dispenser inside. A driver was there. Older guy, weathered face. He nodded at me. "Rough one out there, huh?" "Yeah," I said. "Real rough." "Crossed the lake?" "About an hour ago." He studied my face. "You see anything weird?" I hesitated. "Like what?" "Lights, voices, things that shouldn't be there." I didn't answer right away. Looked into my coffee, watching steam rise. "I've run this route 40 times," he said. And I'll tell you straight, that lake's wrong, always has been. Something down there, or something about it. Makes people see things. Makes things happen that don't make sense. You believe that? He shrugged. Doesn't matter what I believe. Matters what's real. And what's real is drivers go missing. Drivers get confused. Drivers follow things that lead them off the road. Call it weather, call it magnetic fields, call it whatever helps you sleep. But every driver who runs this route regular knows. You feel it when you cross that ice. Yeah, I said quietly. You feel it. He finished his coffee, tossed the cup. Stay sharp out there. And if you hear voices telling you to stop, don't. He left. I stood there alone in the fluorescent lights of the fuel station, warming my hands on the cup, trying to convince myself it was just storm stress, fatigue, isolation playing tricks. But I knew better. Something was out there on that ice. Something that watched, that waited, that pulled drivers off the marked path into dark water. And I'd driven right over it, twice. I finished my delivery without further incident, made it back to base, filed my reports, handed off the paperwork. Didn't mention the lights or the voices or the truck that appeared twice in different places. Some things you keep to yourself. Some things you just file away in the back of your mind and hope you never have to think about them again. But every time dispatch offers me a run across Kivalina Lake, I hesitate. Just for a second. Just long enough to remember that blue-white light pulsing under the ice, that groaning that followed me across, those footprints that ended in nothing. And then I say yes, because that's the job. You run the route they give you. You cross the ice when you have to. You just do it with your eyes open, and you don't stop. No matter what you hear, no matter what you see, you keep moving, and you don't look back. I took 3 days off after that run. Told a dispatch I needed maintenance work on the rig, which wasn't entirely a lie. The chains needed replacing, the brake lines had ice buildup, and one of the fog lights had cracked housing. But mostly, I needed time away from the road. Time to sleep without dreaming about frozen lakes and lights moving under ice. The dreams came anyway. Every night. Same images cycling through. The whisper on the CB, the truck appearing twice. That blue-white glow tracking beneath my trailer. I'd wake up at 3 a.m., sweating despite the cold room, and lie there staring at the ceiling until dawn. On the 4th day, I went to see a doctor. Not for anything official, just a checkup. Wanted to rule out the obvious. Carbon monoxide exposure can cause hallucinations. So can extreme fatigue, hypothermia, even vitamin deficiencies in winter months. Doc ran blood work, checked my vitals, listened to my lungs. Everything came back normal. She asked about sleep, stress, whether I was taking any medications. Standard questions. I answered honestly, told her about the long hauls, the isolation, the irregular sleep schedule. She recommended better sleep hygiene, vitamin D supplements, maybe talking to someone about the stress. Gave me a referral to a counselor who worked with commercial drivers. Said it was common, that the job took a psychological toll people didn't always recognize. I took the referral, never called. What was I supposed to say? That I heard voices that weren't there? That I saw lights under frozen lakes? That GPS coordinates jumped and trucks appeared in 2 places at once? Instead, I did research. Spent hours online, reading about magnetic anomalies in northern regions, about aurora interference with navigation equipment, about how extreme cold affects electronics, how ice can create optical illusions, how storm conditions distort sound and light. There were explanations for everything. The compass needle twitching, magnetic deposits in the bedrock, common in this region. The GPS jumping, atmospheric interference, solar flares affecting satellite signals, the lights under ice, reflection and refraction through crystalline structures, amplified by my own headlights. The whispers on the CB could have been cross-channel bleed from other frequencies, could have been equipment malfunction caused by the cold, could have been atmospheric ducting, where radio signals travel hundreds of miles under certain conditions, picking up transmissions from distant sources. The truck appearing twice? I'd been disoriented, time perception distorted by stress and monotony. I'd probably passed the same truck once, then my brain, under strain, created a false memory of seeing it again. Or there were two similar trucks. Or I'd gotten turned around despite what my instruments said. Every strange thing had a rational explanation. I wrote them all down, made a list, reviewed it multiple times, convinced myself that what I'd experienced was explainable, that I'd let fear and isolation amplify normal phenomena into something sinister. By the time dispatch called with another run, I'd talked myself into believing it. Just weird circumstances, equipment quirks, my own exhausted brain filling in gaps. Nothing supernatural, nothing impossible. "Harlan, you ready to roll?" Cleo asked. "Yeah," I said. "What's the route?" "Same one, Prudhoe to Fairbanks, supply run. Solo again. Weather looks clear." My stomach tightened, but I ignored it. "When do I leave?" "Tomorrow, Aero 600. Standard load, nothing special. Copy." I spent that evening doing a thorough inspection of my rig. Checked every system twice, replaced the chains, fixed the fog light, cleaned every sensor and gauge. I upgraded my CB radio, installed a backup GPS unit, added a second dash cam with night vision. If I was going to run that route again, I was going to be prepared. And this time, I'd document everything. If something strange happened, I'd have proof. Evidence. Something concrete instead of just my word. I left Prudhoe at Aero 600 sharp. Temperature was -35. Sky was clear, which was rare. You could see stars fading as dawn light spread across the horizon. The kind of morning that made you believe everything would be fine. First 100 miles went smooth. Road conditions were good, visibility perfect. I checked in with Cleo every 20 miles. She confirmed my position each time, everything matching up. No discrepancies. I kept the CB on, monitored all the trucker channels, normal chatter, drivers talking about road conditions, fuel prices, where to find decent food. No whispers, no strange transmissions. By mile 150, I was starting to relax. Whatever had happened last time, it wasn't repeating. Today was just a normal run. Then, around mile 180, I saw the pullout where I'd first spotted the abandoned truck. I slowed down, looked carefully. Nothing there. Just empty shoulder, reflective posts, undisturbed snow. No tire tracks, no vehicle. Exactly as it should be. I exhaled relief. It had been my imagination, a stress-induced hallucination. The rational explanations held up. I radioed Cleo, passing marker 180, all clear. "Copy. You're making good time. Lake crossing coming up in 20 miles. Understood." 20 miles. I could do 20 miles. The sky was still clear. Wind was minimal. Best conditions I'd had in weeks. This would be an easy crossing. I approached the lake entrance just after 10 a.m. The ice stretched out flat and white, morning sun making it almost glow. You could see the entire route, marked posts creating a clear line across to the far shore. 3 miles of open terrain, completely visible. I lined up with the entrance, checked my gauges. Everything normal. Both GPS units agreed on my position. Compass pointing steady south. I took a breath, let it out slow. The tires hit ice. That hollow sound, slightly different from road noise. I kept my speed at 25 kilometers per hour. steady. No acceleration, no braking unless necessary. Quarter mile in, half mile. The ice was smooth, well maintained. This was a main transport route. They kept it in good condition. I'd crossed it dozens of times before that weird run. No reason today should be different. 1 mile in, halfway across. I checked my mirrors. Nothing behind me, nothing beside me. Just open ice and clear sky. I checked the dash cams, both recording. If anything happened, I'd have footage. 1.5 miles. 3/4 of the way, almost done. The far shore was clearly visible now, tree line sharp against the sky. 2 minutes, and I'd be on solid ground. That's when I felt it. Not saw, not heard. Felt. A presence, like being watched. That primal instinct that raises your neck hair, that makes your spine tingle. I scanned the mirrors. Nothing. Looked out the windows. Empty ice stretching in all directions. But the feeling persisted. Something was aware of me. Something was paying attention. I increased speed slightly. 30 kilometers per hour. The far shore was close now. 1,000 meters. 800. The ice groaned. Deep sound, resonating through the frame of the rig. Normal, I told myself. Ice shifts with temperature changes with weight distribution. It's supposed to make noise, but this groan was different. It had pattern, almost like syllables, almost like something trying to form words through friction and pressure. 600 meters, 500. I glanced at the right side mirror. For just a second, I thought I saw it. That blue-white glow, barely visible in the daylight, but there. Pulsing faintly under the ice. I blinked, looked again. Nothing. Just ice and reflected sunlight. Optical illusion, had to be. My brain, primed by previous experience, interpreting random light patterns as something meaningful. 400 meters, 300. The CB crackled. My hand jerked toward it, then stopped. Static only, normal interference. I didn't touch the transmit button. Didn't want to invite anything, real or imagined. 200 meters. The tires hit the transition point. That slight change in surface where ice met compacted snow. I was across. Done. Safe. I pulled off to the shoulder about 1/2 mile past the lake, put the rig in park. My hands were trembling. I gripped the wheel harder, trying to stop it. Took deep breaths. Counted to 10. Nothing had happened. I'd crossed the lake without incident. No lights, no voices, no strange phenomena. Just a routine crossing with my own anxiety making me hyper-alert. I reviewed the dashcam footage on my phone, pulling up the app that synced with both cameras. The crossing looked normal. Ice, sky, reflective posts marking the route. No anomalies visible. I zoomed in on the section where I'd thought I saw the light. Just ice, some variations in surface texture, shadows from the trailer, but no glow. No blue-white pulse. Nothing. Relief washed over me. It really had been in my head. The explanations I'd researched were correct. Stress, fatigue, previous experience creating false pattern recognition. My brain seeing threats that weren't there. I pulled back onto the road, continued south. The rest of the run was uneventful. I made my delivery in Fairbanks, grabbed a motel room, slept 10 hours straight. No dreams, no nightmares. Just deep, blank sleep. The next morning, I checked my email. There was a message from Cleo with attached files. Hey Harlan, dispatch asked me to send these over. Maintenance reports on your rig from last week. Everything checked out fine, but thought you'd want to see them. I opened the attachments. Standard forms. Oil levels, brake fluid, tire pressure, electrical systems, all normal. But there was a note at the bottom of the electrical systems report. Minor anomaly detected in CB radio unit. Intermittent signal interference logged during route timestamp 0847-132 on 1214. Pattern suggests possible cross-frequency reception from non-standard source. Recommend unit replacement if interference persists. 0847 to 1032. That was the time frame when I'd heard the whispers, when the static had been worst. But the report said cross-frequency reception, meaning the radio had actually been picking up something. Not a malfunction, not my imagination. An actual signal. I called Cleo. Got your email. Question about the CB radio report. Yeah, what about it? It says cross-frequency reception from a non-standard source. What does that mean exactly? Let me pull up the full report. I heard keyboard clicks. Okay, so the tech noted that your CB was receiving transmissions on frequencies outside the normal CB band. Usually that's caused by nearby emergency services, aviation comms, that sort of thing. Signal bleed from other systems. But there's no aviation or emergency services out there. Middle of nowhere. Right, which is why they flagged it as anomalous. Could be military, could be research stations, could be equipment malfunction creating false readings. They couldn't determine the source, so they just noted it for the record. Did they decode any of the transmission? Identify what was being said? No, it was too fragmented. Just recorded as interference. Why? Did you hear something specific? I hesitated. Just static. Wanted to make sure my equipment was working right. It's working fine. If you're worried about it, we can swap out the unit. But honestly, you're going to get weird interference up there sometimes. It's part of the environment. Yeah, okay. Thanks, Cleo. I hung up, stared at the report. So the whispers had been real, in a sense. My radio had been receiving something, but that didn't mean it was anything impossible. Could have been military exercises, atmospheric bounce bringing in distant signals, equipment from research operations. Still explainable. Still rational. I took another run 3 days later. Different route this time, heading west instead of south. Deliberately avoided the lake crossing. Told dispatch I needed route variety, which was an acceptable request. They assigned me a haul to Nome, coastal route. It went fine. Standard road conditions, normal communications, 0 incidents. Same the next run and the one after that. 2 weeks passed, then 3. I started to believe I was past it. Whatever combination of factors had created those experiences, they weren't repeating. I was back to normal. Then dispatch called. Harlan, we've got an urgent run. Medical supplies to Deadhorse. Route goes through Dalton, across Kivalina. I know you prefer variety, but everyone else is committed. It's priority cargo, double pay. You available? I almost said no. Almost told her to find someone else. But the rational part of my brain pushed back. I'd crossed that lake 100 times without incident. One weird experience didn't change the physics of ice roads. Fear was irrational, and I couldn't let it control my decisions. Yeah, I said, I'm available. Great. You leave in 4 hours. Cargo's already loaded. I prepped fast, checked every system, verified all equipment, made sure both dash cams had fresh storage, that my phone was fully charged, that I had extra batteries for the flashlight. If anything happened, I'd document it, and if nothing happened, I'd finally put this whole thing to rest. The route out of Fairbanks was familiar. I'd driven it enough times that I could almost do it blind. Weather was decent, temperature -28, light snow, but no wind. Visibility good. I reached the approach to Kivalina Lake around 3 p.m., light already fading. Winter days were short this far north. By 4 p.m., it would be full dark. I'd be crossing in twilight. I radioed Cleo. Approaching Lake Crossing. Conditions look stable. Copy. Aerial survey confirms ice thickness at 36 inches. Well above safety minimum. You're clear to proceed. Understood. I lined up with the entry point. Switched on my fog lights, checked the mirrors. Behind me, the road stretched back empty. Ahead, the lake opened up gray and flat. Marked posts showed clear in my headlights. I started across, speed at 20, nice and slow. The ice felt solid, no flex, no give. Good crossing conditions, half-mile in, 1 mile. The sun was setting behind me, casting long shadows across the ice. The reflection made it harder to judge distance, but the posts were clear enough. I followed them carefully. 1.5 miles. Almost done. This was going to be fine. Easy crossing, no issues. I'd finally proven to myself that the previous experience was an outlier. Then my phone rang. Mounted on the dash, connected to the cab speakers. I glanced at the screen. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but it could have been dispatch calling from a different line. I tapped accept. This is Harlan. Silence. Not dead air, but presence. Someone on the line, not speaking. Hello, I said. A voice came through, low, distorted. Stop the truck. My blood went cold. It was the same voice from the CB. The whisper, but clearer now, more defined. Who is this? I demanded. Stop the truck, get out, walk to the edge. I glanced at the phone, still showing unknown number. I hit disconnect. The call ended. My hands were shaking. Just a prank call, someone spoofing numbers, messing with drivers. It happened sometimes. People found it funny. The phone rang again. Same unknown number. I didn't answer, let it go to voicemail. It rang through, then stopped. 10 seconds later, it rang again. I grabbed the phone, powered it off completely. Silence. Just the engine rumble and the hollow sound of tires on ice. Keep moving, don't stop. I was 300 meters from the far shore. Almost there. The CB crackled. I tensed, but it was Cleo. Harlan, you copy? Copy. Just checking in. You should be finishing the crossing about now. Affirmative. 200 meters out. Good. We're showing some weather moving in. Light snow, nothing serious. Should clear by morning. Copy. The call ended. I focused on the road, on the posts marking my path. 100 meters to shore. 50. My phone vibrated. Still powered off, but vibrating. That wasn't possible. You can't receive anything when the device is off. But I could feel it, buzzing against the plastic of the mount. I looked at the screen. Black. Dead. But vibrating in steady pulses, like something was trying to reach through. I grabbed it, opened the window, threw it out onto the ice, watched it tumble, skid across the surface, disappear behind me. The vibration had stopped. My hand was empty. The tires hit gravel. I was across, on solid ground. I didn't slow down, just kept going, putting distance between me and that lake. 1 mile passed, 2 miles. Finally, I pulled over, killed the engine, sat in silence. My phone was gone. I'd thrown away my primary communication device. That was stupid, irrational, but I'd felt it vibrating while powered off, and that shouldn't have been possible. Unless I'd imagined it. Unless the stress had manifested as a tactile hallucination. That was possible. Stress could cause all kinds of sensory distortions. I sat there for 20 minutes, trying to calm down. Eventually, I started the engine, continued to dead horse, made the delivery, filed my report, told dispatch I'd dropped my phone, would need a replacement. They sent me a new one. I activated it, loaded my contacts, went back on the road. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd crossed a line, that whatever was out on that lake had tried to reach me directly, not through equipment interference or weather phenomena, but through a device that was supposed to be off. That shouldn't have been possible. But it happened. I knew it happened, regardless of what any rational explanation tried to tell me. I started researching more. Not just technical explanations, but local history, indigenous legends, old stories from before the roads were built. Found some references online, scattered across forums and historical sites. The Kivalina area had stories, old ones, about spirits in the ice, about travelers who heard voices, who saw lights, who followed them and never returned, about the lake holding something beneath its frozen surface, something that watched the people crossing above. I didn't believe in spirits, didn't believe in supernatural entities, but I believed in patterns. And the pattern was clear. People experienced strange things at that lake. Not everyone, but enough. Enough that there were stories, warnings, legends built up over generations. Maybe those stories had rational roots. Maybe geological or atmospheric phenomena in that specific location created consistent conditions that affected human perception. Maybe the magnetic deposits, the cold, the isolation, all combined to create experiences that people interpreted as supernatural but were really just physics and psychology. Or maybe something was actually there. Something that existed outside normal understanding, that interacted with the physical world in ways we couldn't explain. I didn't know which was true, but I knew one thing for certain. Every time I crossed that lake, something paid attention. And it was getting closer, more direct, moving from distant lights to voices on the radio to calls on my phone. Like it was learning how to reach me, like it was testing different methods, different approaches, like it was trying to communicate, or trying to get me to stop. And I didn't want to find out what would happen if I ever did stop. If I ever opened that door, stepped out onto the ice, walked to the edge like the voice had told me. Because deep down, beneath all the rational explanations and psychological theories, I knew. Whatever was under that ice, it was waiting, patient, watching everyone who crossed. And sooner or later it would find someone who listened, someone who stopped. I just had to make sure it wasn't me. I scheduled a meeting with dispatch the next week. Told them I needed to talk about route assignments. Sat down in Cleo's office, tried to figure out how to phrase it without sounding unstable. I want to request permanent reassignment off the Dalton Highway route, I said. Specifically, any route that crosses Kivalina Lake. Cleo looked at me, concern in her eyes. Harlan, is something wrong? You're one of our best drivers on that route. Nothing's wrong, I just need a change. Been running it too long. Want some variety. She studied me for a long moment. This is about what happened 2 months ago, isn't it? The convoy incident, the missing drivers. No. Well, maybe. I don't know. I just think it's better if someone else takes those runs. Harlan, we had counselors available after that incident, for any driver who needed to talk. Did you take advantage of that? I'm fine, Cleo. I don't need counseling. I just want different routes. She sighed. Okay, I can accommodate that. We've got plenty of other routes that need coverage. But if you change your mind, if you want to talk about what happened out there, my door's open. Appreciate it. I left her office feeling both relief and shame. Relief that I wouldn't have to cross that lake again. Shame that I was letting fear dictate my choices. But it was the right call. I knew it was. Because the alternative was continuing to cross, continuing to expose myself to whatever was happening out there, and eventually something would go wrong. Eventually I'd be the driver who didn't make it back. The one they'd find stopped on the ice. Or not find at all. I'd been lucky so far. Lucky that I'd kept moving, that I hadn't listened to the voices. But luck runs out, and I wasn't willing to bet my life that I'd stay lucky forever. I'd been running coastal routes for 6 weeks. Nome to Kotzebue, Barrow to Prudhoe, anywhere that kept me away from that lake. The work was good, pay was decent, and I slept better. No dreams about lights under ice. No waking up at 3 a.m. with my heart racing. Cleo had kept her word. She never assigned me Dalton runs, never questioned my decision. Other drivers picked up those routes without issue. Life moved on. Then February hit, and everything changed. The storm came in fast, one of those systems that drops out of nowhere and shuts down half the state. Wind speeds hit 70 miles per hour. Temperature dropped to -50 with wind chill. Visibility went to 0 across most of the northern routes. I was at base in Fairbanks when Cleo called me into her office. Her face was tight, stressed. "We've got a situation." "What kind of situation?" "Medical emergency in Deadhorse. Critical supplies needed within 12 hours. Medication for a worker who had a severe allergic reaction. Without it, he'll die." "What about air transport?" "Grounded. Everything's grounded. Storm's too severe. We need a driver willing to make the run." My stomach dropped. "Dalton Highway." She nodded. "It's the only route that's even marginally passable. And barely that. We've got 2 drivers already on the route who turned back. Said conditions are impossible." "Then how am I supposed to get through?" "You've done it in conditions like this before. You know that route better than anyone. And," she paused, "you're the only driver I trust to make it. Cleo, you know why I don't run that route anymore." "I know, and I wouldn't ask if there was any other option. But there isn't. Someone will die if these supplies don't get through. I need you to make the call." I stood there looking at her, weighing it. A man's life against my fear. My irrational, unexplainable fear of a frozen lake. "What's the timeline?" I asked. "You'd need to leave within the hour. Storm's supposed to break around midnight, but we can't wait that long. You'd have to drive through it." "Solo?" "Solo. No convoy, no backup, just you." I thought about saying no. Thought about all the reasons I'd avoided that route. The whispers, the lights, the phone vibrating when it was off, the feeling of being watched by something vast and patient. But then I thought about a man lying in a medical facility. Allergic reaction shutting down his body, minutes or hours from death. Because a driver was too scared to do his job. "I'll do it," I said. Relief flooded Cleo's face. "Thank you. Cargo's already loaded, special insulated container. Temperature controlled. You lose power. You've got maybe 4 hours before the medication degrades." "Understood." She handed me the route documentation. "Stay in touch as much as you can. If conditions get too severe, pull over and wait it out. A delay is better than losing both you and the cargo." I took the papers, went to prep my rig. The wind outside was already screaming, snow coming down in sheets. This was going to be bad. Worse than anything I'd driven through before. I did a thorough check. Engine, tires, chains, lights, backup systems. Everything had to be perfect. No room for mechanical failure. Not in these conditions. I loaded extra fuel, extra food, extra blankets. If I got stranded, I needed to be able to survive. The CB radio was new, replaced after the last incident. I tested it. Clear signal, no interference. Both GPS units were functioning. Dash cams recording. Phone fully charged. I climbed into the cab, started the engine, let it warm up. Checked the cargo container's temperature readout, holding steady at the required range. "Good." Cleo's voice came through the CB. "Harlan, whenever you're ready. Rolling out now." I pulled out of the lot into the storm. Visibility was maybe 20 feet. I couldn't see the road ahead, just the faint depression in the snow where vehicles had passed before. The wipers worked overtime, ice building up on the blades faster than they could clear it. Speed was 15 kilometers per hour. Any faster, and I'd lose control. The wind buffeted the rig, pushing it sideways. I corrected constantly, hands tight on the wheel. First 10 miles took an hour. Radio communication was spotty, Cleo's voice cutting in and out. I gave her position updates when I could. She confirmed receipt, encouraged me to stay safe. By mile 20, full dark had fallen. My headlights barely penetrated the storm. I was driving blind, trusting feel more than sight. The road was still there. I could sense it through the tires, through the way the trailer pulled. Mile 40, mile 60. Time became meaningless. Just endless white, endless wind, endless tension. My shoulders ached from gripping the wheel. My eyes burned from staring into the storm. Around mile 80, the CB came alive. Heavy static, but underneath it, voices. Multiple voices overlapping. I couldn't make out words, just the rhythm of speech, rising and falling like a conversation happening far away. I adjusted the squelch. The voices remained, changed channels, still there, like they were coming through every frequency at once. "Cleo, are you getting this interference?" I asked. No response. Just those voices, continuing their incomprehensible dialogue. I tried again. "Dispatch, this is Rig 4. Do you copy?" The voices stopped. Complete silence. Then one voice came through, clear and distinct. "Harlan, my name," spoken by someone who knew me. The voice was familiar but wrong, like hearing a recording of yourself played back distorted. "Who is this?" I demanded. "You shouldn't have come back. Identify yourself. You stayed away. You were smart. Why did you come back?" I didn't answer. Kept driving, eyes on the barely visible road. "We've been waiting," the voice said, "watching for you. Knew you'd return eventually. They always do. This is a closed emergency channel. Get off this frequency." Laughter. Low and wrong, like it was coming from multiple sources slightly out of sync. You feel it, don't you? Getting closer. Almost there now. I looked at my GPS, mile marker 140, 60 miles from the lake crossing. Still a ways out. But the voice was right. I could feel it. That presence. That awareness. Same as before, but stronger. Like it had been building while I was away, accumulating, waiting. The storm intensified. Wind hit the rig so hard it lurched sideways. I fought the wheel, brought it back. Speed dropped to 10 kilometers per hour. 5. "Harlan, listen to me." The voice again, but different now, less distorted, almost concerned. "When you reach the lake, don't cross. Turn around, go back." "I can't turn around. Someone's life depends on this delivery." Many lives have depended on crossings. The ice takes what it wants. The ice is frozen water. It doesn't want anything. You know that's not true. You've seen. You've heard. You know something's there. I did know. Had known since the first crossing. But admitting it felt like giving in to madness. "Even if something is there," I said, "I still have to cross. It's my job." Silence. Long stretch of it. Then, "We tried to warn you. Remember that. When it happens, remember we tried." The transmission ended. I tried raising Cleo again. No response. Tried other channels. Dead air on all of them. I was alone. Completely alone in a storm, heading toward a frozen lake that I knew, with absolute certainty, was wrong. That held something patient and vast and hungry. But I kept driving. Because a man was dying, and this cargo was his only chance. Mile 160. Mile 180. The abandoned pullout where I'd first seen that truck pass by in the darkness. I didn't look. Didn't want to know if anything was there. Mile 195. 15 miles from the lake. The storm was at its peak. I couldn't see anything. Not the road, not the trees, nothing. just white chaos in every direction. But I kept moving forward, trusting instinct and experience. Then the wind stopped, completely. 1 second it was screaming, the next silence. The snow still fell, but straight down now. No horizontal movement, no buffeting, just gentle descent in the headlight beams. The sudden absence of wind was more unsettling than the storm had been. It felt unnatural, wrong. I checked the gauges. Everything normal, checked the mirrors. Nothing behind me. The road ahead opened up slightly. I could see maybe 50 meters now. The tree line ended. I'd reached the lake approach. I slowed to a crawl, maybe 3 kilometers per hour. The entrance posts were visible, marking the route across the ice. Beyond them, the lake stretched out flat and dark. No reflective posts visible past the first few. The storm had buried them, or the visibility was too poor, or they weren't there anymore. I stopped at the entrance, put the rig in park, sat there, engine idling. Every instinct screamed at me to turn around, to radio back that conditions were impossible, that no amount of cargo was worth this crossing. But I thought about that man in Dead Horse, about the medication in the container behind me, about the clock ticking down. I checked the cargo temperature. Still stable, still viable. If I turned back now, he'd die. If I continued and something went wrong, we'd both die. But if I didn't at least try, I'd never forgive myself. I put the rig in gear, pressed the accelerator gently. The tires rolled forward onto the ice. That hollow sound, that sense of fragility beneath weight. But the ice held. I kept moving, following where the route should be, even though I couldn't see the posts. Quarter-mile in. The silence was complete now. Even the engine seemed muted, like sound was being absorbed by something. I could hear my own breathing, loud in the cab. Half-mile. The darkness beyond my headlights felt solid, oppressive, like I was driving through something thicker than air. My CB crackled. Not voices, just a single tone. Low frequency, steady pulse. Like a heartbeat, but too slow, too deep. I reached for the power switch, thought about turning it off. But if Cleo tried to reach me if I needed help, I'd need the radio. The tone continued, rhythmic, patient. 1 mile in, halfway across. The headlights caught something ahead. I squinted, trying to make it out. A shape, dark against the white. As I got closer, it resolved. A vehicle, stopped in the middle of the route. My throat tightened. I slowed more, approaching carefully. It was a rig, same model as mine, same color scheme, even the same cargo configuration. I stopped 20 meters away. The rig ahead was dark. No lights, no engine running. Abandoned. I grabbed my flashlight, started to open the door. Then stopped, remembered all the warnings. Don't stop, don't get out, keep moving. But someone might need help. Another driver might be in that cab, frozen, dying. I opened the door. The cold hit me like a wall. -50, maybe colder. My breath froze in the air. I climbed down, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. Approached the rig slowly. The cargo container was identical to mine, same insulated unit, same temperature control system. I walked around to the driver's side, shone my light up at the window. Empty. No one inside. But the door was closed, locked. Engine was cold, had been off for hours at least. I checked the cargo container's readout. Temperature was failing, had been for a while. Whatever had been in there was ruined. I backed away from the rig, swept my flashlight around, looking for footprints, for any sign of where the driver had gone. Nothing, just smooth ice and falling snow. Then I noticed something. The rig was facing the wrong direction. It wasn't pointing south toward the far shore. It was pointing north, back the way I'd come, like it had been driving in the opposite direction, or like it had turned around. I walked back to my rig, climbed up. My hands were numb despite the gloves. I started the engine, cranked the heat. Sat there, staring at that abandoned vehicle in my headlights. The CB tone changed. Faster now, more urgent, almost frantic. I put the rig in gear, drove around the abandoned vehicle, gave it wide clearance. As I passed, I looked in my side mirror. For just a second, I thought I saw someone standing next to it. A figure in winter gear, watching me pass. I blinked, nothing there, just the empty rig, slowly disappearing behind me. 1.5 miles, 3/4 across. Almost done. The ice groaned, louder than I'd ever heard it. The sound resonated through everything, through the frame, through my bones. It went on for 10 seconds, then stopped. The silence that followed was worse. I checked my mirrors again. Nothing behind me. Checked ahead. Nothing visible except snow and darkness. The CB tone stopped, complete silence, then a voice. Clear. No distortion. No static. "Harlan, stop the truck." It was my voice, exactly my voice, like I was talking to myself. Stop the truck and look down. I didn't stop, kept driving. Speed at 5 kilometers per hour. Steady forward motion. You need to see. You need to understand. I don't need to do anything except finish this crossing, I said out loud. Look down at the ice. See what's beneath. Against my better judgment, I looked. Out of the side window, down at the surface of the lake. My headlights illuminated it, showing the texture, the patterns in the ice. And beneath it, something moved. Large, fluid, following the rig's movement. I could see it as a darkness under the ice, a shape that was almost familiar but not quite right. It matched my speed, staying directly beneath. I looked away, focused on the road ahead. 1/4 mile to the far shore, 2 minutes at this speed, just 2 minutes. It knows you now, my voice said from the CB. It's been learning. Every crossing, it learns more. How to reach through, how to speak, how to call. Shut up, I said. Soon it won't need the radio, won't need phones or equipment. It'll reach directly, into your thoughts, into your dreams. You'll hear it everywhere. The far shore appeared in my headlights, solid ground, trees, safety. You can't escape it, Harlan. It's part of you now, part of your memory. Every time you sleep, you'll be back here. Every time you close your eyes, you'll see the ice. The tires hit gravel. I was across. On solid ground, done. I didn't slow down. Kept going, putting distance between me and that lake. 1 mile, 2 miles, 5 miles. Finally, I pulled over, shut off the CB, sat in silence. My hands were shaking. Whole body was shaking, but I'd made it. I'd crossed, and I was alive, and the cargo was intact. I checked the temperature readout, still stable. The medication was viable. I could complete the delivery. I pulled back onto the road. The storm was breaking, clouds thinning. I could see stars appearing overhead. The wind had dropped to nothing. Driving conditions were improving fast. The rest of the run was uneventful. I reached Dead Horse 4 hours later, delivered the cargo to the medical facility. Watched them rush it inside, heard later that it had arrived in time. The man survived. I should have felt good about that. I should have felt like I'd done something meaningful, but all I felt was hollow, drained. I filed my report, grabbed a few hours of sleep, then started the return trip. Different route this time, longer but safer. I wasn't crossing that lake again, not ever. Back at base, Cleo met me in the lot. "Heard you made it through. That was incredible work, Harlan. You saved a life." "Just did my job," I said. "Still, not many drivers could have made that run in those conditions. You should be proud." I nodded, didn't tell her about the abandoned rig on the ice, about my own voice coming through the CB, about the shape that moved beneath. "I'm taking some time off," I said. "Few weeks, maybe a month. Need to decompress." "You've earned it. Take as long as you need." I went home, tried to rest. But sleep wouldn't come. Every time I closed my eyes, I was back on that ice, feeling it beneath me, sensing that vast presence below. And the voice was right. It was in my thoughts now, not speaking, just there, a pressure at the back of my mind, a awareness that I was being watched, even hundreds of miles from that lake. I started researching again, more digging into local history, found references to the lake that went back centuries. Different names, different languages, but the same stories. Something lives beneath, something old, something patient. The indigenous peoples had avoided it when possible, built settlements around it, not across it. They knew. Then modern engineers came, decided the ice was stable, that the route was viable. They built the road, started sending convoys across, and drivers started disappearing. Not many, just enough. One every few years. Always in winter. Always on the ice. The official reports blamed weather, mechanical failure, driver error. But the drivers who survived, who'd seen things, who'd heard things, they knew better. I found a forum online. Private group, invitation only. Drivers who'd crossed Kivalina and experienced the anomalies. There were dozens of us, all with similar stories. Lights, voices, feelings of being watched. One driver had stopped. Against all advice, he'd stopped on the ice and gotten out. He'd walked to the edge of the route, looked down at the ice beneath his feet, said he could see something down there. Something looking back. He'd made it across, made it home, but he never drove again. Left the industry completely. Said he couldn't forget what he'd seen, couldn't stop hearing the voice that had called to him. I didn't ask what he'd seen, didn't want to know, because I had a feeling I already knew. That shape beneath the ice, following the rig. That wasn't random, that was something aware. Something choosing to reveal itself. A month passed, then 2. I stayed off the road, told dispatch I was dealing with family issues. They didn't push. Eventually, money got tight. I needed to work. Cleo called with an offer. Coastal route, Nome to Barrow. Standard cargo, good conditions, nowhere near Dalton. You interested? Yeah, I said. I'm interested. I took the run. It went fine. Took another, also fine. Slowly, I worked my way back into regular rotation. Only coastal routes, only southern runs. Nothing that went near that lake. But it didn't matter. Because the voice was right. It had gotten into my head. Every night I dreamed about the ice, about driving across, about stopping, about looking down at what lay beneath. And in the dreams, I always stopped, always got out, always walked to the edge and looked down. And what I saw looking back, I'd wake up before I could see it clearly. But I knew it was there, knew it was waiting, knew that eventually the dreams and reality would merge, and I'd find myself back on that ice, unable to resist the call. 3 months after my last crossing, I got a call from Cleo. Her voice was tight, professional. "Harlan, we need to talk. Can you come to the office?" "What's this about?" "Just come in, please." I drove to the office. She was waiting, along with 2 state police officers. "Harlan Yeager?" one of them asked. "That's me. We need to ask you some questions about a vehicle found on Kivalina Lake last week." My stomach dropped. What vehicle? A rig matching yours. Same model, same company markings. Found abandoned on the ice, driver's seat empty, cargo container intact. But here's the strange part. He pulled out a photo. The rig's ID number matches yours, exactly. I looked at the photo. It was my rig. Every detail identical. But I was standing right there. My rig was in the parking lot outside. That's impossible, I said. My rig's been here the whole time. We verified that. Your vehicle's GPS shows it hasn't moved from base in 3 days. But this rig on the lake, it has your ID number, your registration, everything, like it's a duplicate. I stared at the photo, at the abandoned rig on the ice, positioned exactly where I'd seen that other abandoned vehicle during my last crossing. There must be a mistake, I said. Someone cloned the ID, stole company markings. It's not actually my rig. We thought that too, but we ran the VIN. It matches. According to our database, that rig on the lake is yours. And yet, here you are, and there's your rig outside. I had no explanation, no rational way to explain how my vehicle could exist in 2 places at once. The police asked more questions. I answered as best I could. Eventually, they left, saying they'd continue investigating, but I could see the doubt in their eyes, the suspicion that I was hiding something. Cleo walked me out. "What's going on, Harlan?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "Is this connected to why you stopped running Dalton?" I looked at her, tried to decide how much to say. Something's wrong with that lake. Has been for a long time. I don't understand it, can't explain it, but it's real. She didn't dismiss it, didn't tell me I was crazy, just nodded slowly. "Other drivers have said the same thing, not many, but enough. We've tried to investigate, but every time we do, we hit dead ends. Equipment malfunctions, data gets corrupted, witnesses change their stories." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe there are things that don't want to be investigated. Things that exist in the gaps between what we can measure and what we know is real." I left the office, drove home. That night, I had the dream again, crossing the ice, stopping, getting out, walking to the edge. But this time, I didn't wake up before seeing what looked back. This time, I saw it clearly. It was me, my face, my body, standing on the ice, looking up through the frozen surface, mouth moving, speaking words I couldn't hear, reaching up, pressing hands against the underside of the ice, like I was trapped beneath, like I'd been there all along, like the version walking on the surface was the reflection, and the one below was real. I woke up screaming, checked my hands, my body, real, solid. I was here, in my bed, in my room, not trapped under ice, but the fear remained. The question that I couldn't answer, which version was real? The one above the ice, or the one below? I don't drive anymore. Told dispatch I was done, sold my rig, tried to move on with my life. But you can't run from something that's already inside you, something that's claimed a part of your mind. Sometimes, late at night, I hear the groaning of ice. Feel the hollow sound of tires on a frozen lake. Sense that vast presence watching from beneath. And I know, eventually, I'll go back. Not because I want to, but because it's calling. Has been calling since the first crossing. Patient, waiting. Because some things don't just exist in places. They exist in memory, in thought, in the space between what you know is real and what you fear might be. And once they get inside, once they mark you, you're never truly away from them. You just exist in the space between crossing and returning, between the surface and what lies beneath. I don't know when I'll go back, but I know I will. Know that one day I'll find myself driving north, crossing that lake, stopping in the middle, getting out, and finally seeing what's been waiting for me all along. But until that day comes, I'll keep the lights on, keep the radio off, keep my eyes forward and my mind occupied, because the alternative is thinking too hard about what I saw in that dream, about which version of me is real, about whether I'm the one living this life, or whether I'm already beneath the ice, dreaming that I escaped. I don't know which is worse, going back, or never knowing if I ever really left. The fuel gauge was sitting at quarter tank when I crossed into the Northwest Territories. Not critical yet, but getting there. I'd planned to fill up at the border station, but when I pulled in, the pumps were down for maintenance. Sign on the door said they'd be back up in 6 hours. I didn't have 6 hours. My name's Jules Tarrant, and I've been running ice roads for 11 years. Long enough to know that fuel planning isn't optional up here. You miscalculate by even 20 miles, you can end up stranded in country where help is hours away, if it comes at all. I checked my route map. There was another station marked about 80 miles north. Small place, not part of any major chain. Independent operation called Everett's Fuel Stop. The notation on the map listed it as seasonal, call ahead. I'd passed it before, maybe 3 years back, but I'd never stopped, never needed to. I tried calling the number listed, went straight to an automated message saying the mailbox was full. Not unusual for these remote places. Half the time, the owners didn't bother with phones. You showed up, they were either open or they weren't. I radioed dispatch. "This is Rig 7, Jules Tarrant. I'm showing quarter tank, need to refuel. Border station's down. Heading to Everett's, 80 miles north." Dispatch came back after a few seconds. "Copy that, Jules. Be advised, Everett's isn't showing on our current supplier list. Might be closed for the season." "Understood. If it's closed, I'll continue to Fort Nelson. Should have enough fuel." "Should?" I checked the gauge again, did the math. "It'll be tight, but I'll make it. Keep us updated." "Will do." I pulled back onto the highway. The road was decent. Packed snow with gravel showing through in places. Temperature was -32. Cold, but not extreme. No wind, good visibility. Easy driving conditions, which was a relief after the storm system that had hammered the region the week before. The landscape up here was endless. White plains stretching to distant tree lines, occasional hills breaking the monotony. Sky was overcast, that flat gray that made it hard to tell where land ended and air began. This time of year you had maybe 6 hours of usable daylight. Right now it was mid-afternoon. Sun already low on the horizon. I settled into the drive. The rig handled smooth, trailer fully loaded with industrial equipment headed for a mining operation. Heavy load, which meant better traction but higher fuel consumption. That quarter tank was dropping steadily. After an hour, I started watching for the station. According to the map, it should have been coming up. I passed mile marker 340, then 350. No sign of it. Just empty road and frozen landscape. I checked the map again. The notation put Everett's at mile marker 355. I watched the markers go by. 352, 353, 354, 355 came up. Nothing there. Just road and snow and a turnoff that led to what looked like an old logging trail, half buried and unused. I continued another 10 miles thinking maybe the map was outdated. Maybe the marker had changed. Still nothing. Fuel gauge showed just over 1/8 of a tank. I did the calculation. Fort Nelson was still 90 miles out. I wasn't going to make it. Not with a full load and cold weather eating into fuel efficiency. I pulled over, grabbed at my phone. No service. Not surprising this far north. I tried the CB, cycling through channels. Static on all of them, nobody within range. I sat there, engine idling, considering options. I could offload some cargo, lighten the weight, improve fuel consumption. But that meant stopping in freezing temperatures, risking injury, and hoping the math worked out. Or I could backtrack to the border station, wait for their pumps to come online. But that was over 100 miles back, and I definitely didn't have fuel for a round trip. Then I remembered something. Old truckers used to talk about unmarked stations, places that didn't advertise, didn't show up on official maps. They existed for the people who knew about them. Word-of-mouth operations. Could be Everett's was one of those. I checked the map more carefully. That logging trail at mile marker 355 could have been access to something beyond the tree line. Might be worth a look. I turned the rig around, headed back south. Found the marker, took the turnoff. The trail was rough, barely wide enough for the rig. Branches scraped against the trailer. Snow was deeper here, less traveled, but there were tire tracks. Old ones, partially filled, but visible. Someone had come through here recently, within the last few days maybe. I followed the trail for about 2 miles. It curved through dense forest, the kind of route that made you question whether you'd made the right call. Then the trees opened up, and I saw it. A fuel station. Small, maybe 3 pumps, single building with a faded sign that read, Everett's Fuel and Supply. Lights were on inside, dim but visible through the windows. One of the pumps had a flickering fluorescent light above it. Relief washed over me. I pulled up to the pumps, checked the signage. Diesel available. Price hadn't been updated in years, probably, but I didn't care. I needed fuel. I climbed out of the cab. The cold hit hard, wind cutting through even my heavy jacket. I approached the building, looking for movement inside. Couldn't see anyone through the windows. Place looked empty, but the lights were on. The door was unlocked. I pushed it open, bells jingling as I entered. Inside was warmer, heater humming somewhere. The space was small, shelves lined with basic supplies. Motor oil, snacks, road flares. Everything covered in a thin layer of dust. "Hello?" I called out. "Anyone here?" No answer. I walked to the counter. Cash register was old, the kind with physical buttons. Next to it was a handwritten sign, self-serve. Leave payment in box. There was a metal box bolted to the counter slot on top. Looked like you were supposed to drop cash through after pumping. I checked behind the counter. Small office door, closed. I knocked. "Hello, I need to fill up." Nothing. I tried the door. Locked. This wasn't ideal, but it wasn't entirely unusual either. Remote stations sometimes operated on trust. You pump, you pay, you leave. Owner might be out back, might be away for the day. As long as the pumps worked, that was what mattered. I went back outside, approached the diesel pump. It looked old, but functional. I grabbed the nozzle, squeezed the handle. Nothing happened. Looked at the display. It was dark, inactive. Of course, pump needed to be activated. I went back inside, looked for a control panel. Found it behind the counter. Old analog switches. One was labeled diesel. I flipped it. Heard a mechanical click, then a hum. Back outside, the pump display had lit up. Numbers glowing faint green. I inserted the nozzle into my fuel tank, squeezed the handle. It started flowing. Good pressure, clean fuel smell. While it pumped, I looked around. The place was isolated. Besides the trail I'd come in on, there didn't seem to be any other access. No visible house nearby, no sign of where the owner might live. Just the station building, the pumps, and dense forest all around. The pump clicked off. Full tank. I checked the display. 83 liters, reasonable charge. I went back inside, pulled out my wallet. Counted out cash, enough to cover the fuel plus a little extra for the inconvenience of self-service, dropped it through the slot in the metal box. Something felt off, but I couldn't identify what. The place was functional, clean enough, clearly maintained. Lights were on, heater working, pumps operational. But there was a stillness to it that bothered me. Like nobody had been here in a while, despite the evidence that someone must have been. I was about to leave when I noticed the logbook. Sitting on the counter, spiral-bound, pages yellowed. I flipped it open out of curiosity. It was a fuel log. Customers were supposed to write down their name, date, and amount purchased. The last entry was dated 3 weeks ago. Before that, nothing for 2 months. And before that, sporadic entries going back years. This place clearly didn't get much business. But the lights were on. The heater was running. The pumps worked. Someone was maintaining it. I signed my name in the log, dated it, wrote down the amount. Then I left, climbed back into my cab, started the engine, pulled away from the pumps. As I drove back down the trail toward the main road, I kept checking my mirrors. The station's lights were still visible through the trees, that faint glow in the growing darkness. Then the trail curved, and it disappeared from view. I reached the highway, turned north again, continued toward Fort Nelson. Fuel gauge showed full. Crisis averted. Should have felt good about it. But that uneasy feeling persisted. I radioed dispatch. Jules here. Found Everett's, refueled. Continuing to destination. Copy. Good to hear. Everything okay? Yeah. Place was unmanned, but functional. Self-service setup. Understood. Safe travels. I drove for another hour before the sun fully set. Darkness came fast up here. 1 minute you had twilight, next minute it was full night. I switched on my running lights, settled in for the evening drive. That's when my phone rang. Mounted on the dash, connected to the cab speakers. I glanced at the screen. Number I didn't recognize, but it had a local area code. I answered. This is Jules. Hey Jules, it's Rook Malberg. Rook was a mechanic I'd worked with before. Good guy, based out of Whitehorse. Knew ice road rigs better than anyone. Rook, what's up? Just checking in. Heard you were running north. Wanted to make sure you didn't have any issues with that fuel stop. I frowned. What fuel stop? Everett's. You logged a refuel there about an hour ago, right? Yeah. How'd you know about that? He paused. Because that place has been closed for 2 years. Owner died. No one's operated it since. My hands tightened on the wheel. That's not possible. I was just there. Lights were on. Pumps worked. I fueled up. Jules, I'm serious. Everett's been abandoned since winter 2 years ago. Old guy who ran it, Everett himself, had a heart attack. They found him 3 days later. Place has been locked up ever since. Then who's maintaining it? Who's keeping the power on? Nobody. There's no power out there. Lines got disconnected when the property went into a state limbo. Family couldn't decide what to do with it, so it's just been sitting. I glanced at my fuel gauge, still showing full. Rook, I literally just pumped 83 liters. Paid cash. The place was operational. Long silence on the other end. What did the inside look like? Small, dusty, old supplies on the shelves, heater was running. Heater was running, he repeated, voice flat. Jules, that building doesn't have a heater. Never did. Too expensive to install in a place that remote. Everett used a wood stove, and even that barely worked. I didn't know what to say. What I'd experienced didn't match what he was telling me, but I'd been there. I'd seen it. I'd felt the warm air inside. Maybe someone squatting, I said, using it without permission. That would explain the lights, the operational pumps. Maybe, Rook said, but he didn't sound convinced. Just Be careful, okay? That area has a weird reputation. Drivers report strange things sometimes. Most of it's probably bullshit, but enough people have talked about it that I pay attention. What kind of strange things? Places that shouldn't be there. Roads that don't exist on maps. Stations that appear and disappear. Could be navigation errors, could be people getting disoriented. But it happens enough that I tell drivers to double-check their routes in that region. You think I got disoriented? I think you refueled somewhere, and I hope it was actually Everett's and not somewhere else. Because if it wasn't, I don't know where you stopped, and that concerns me. We talked for a few more minutes. He made me promise to check in when I reached Fort Nelson, to verify my fuel quality, to watch for any engine issues. I agreed, then ended the call. I drove in silence for a while, processing. My fuel gauge showed full. The rig was running smooth. Whatever I'd pumped, it was working. That should have been enough. But Rook's words stuck with me. 2 years closed. No power, no heater, owner dead. So where had I been? And who had turned on those lights? I reached Fort Nelson 3 hours later. Pulled into a proper truck stop. Bright lights and busy lot. People everywhere, normal activity. I parked, climbed out, did a walk-around inspection. Everything looked fine. I checked the fuel tank cap, sealed properly. Checked the fuel itself, dipped a sample. Clear diesel, no contamination visible. Smelled right. I went inside the truck stop, grabbed coffee, sat in the corner booth. Pulled out my phone, searched for information about Everett's fuel stop. Found an old article from a local news site. Brief obituary for Everett Keller, owner of a remote fuel station. Died of heart failure, February 2021. Property in a state limbo, future uncertain. There was a photo. Old guy, weathered face, standing in front of his station. The building looked the same as what I'd seen. Same sign, same layout. It was definitely the place I'd stopped. But according to this, it had been closed and unpowered for 2 years. So how had I filled up there? I found another article. This one from a trucking forum dated 6 months ago. A driver asking if anyone knew the status of Everett's station. Several responses saying it was closed, abandoned. One comment stood out. Stopped there last winter. Place looked operational, lights on, but no one inside. Used self-service, left cash. Fuel seemed fine. Found out later the place has been closed for years. Don't know what I pumped into my tank, but my rig ran okay. Weird experience, though. Felt wrong the whole time. I scrolled through more comments. 3 other drivers reported similar experiences. Stopping at Everett's despite it being officially closed. Finding it apparently operational. Self-service, no attendant. Fuel that worked fine, and all of them describing the same uneasy feeling. One comment was more detailed. I think someone's using the place illegally. Squatter operation. They turn on the power when they see a rig approaching, let you fuel up, take your cash, then disappear. Probably selling stolen fuel. Explains why it's intermittent and why there's never anyone visible. That made sense. More sense than any alternative explanation. Someone was running an underground operation, using the abandoned station as cover. They'd rigged up power somehow, maybe a generator, kept it running enough to service the occasional desperate driver. It was illegal, but not impossible. And it would explain everything I'd experienced. I finished my coffee, went back to my rig. Checked my route for the next day. Tomorrow, I'd reach the mining site, offload cargo, then head back south. Different route, avoiding that area entirely. But as I climbed into my sleeper cab and tried to rest, I couldn't shake the memory of that place, the dust on the shelves, the old logbook with sparse entries, the warmth inside despite Rook saying there was no heater. And one detail I'd noticed but hadn't fully registered at the time: the fuel pump display, the numbers glowing green. But when I'd looked closer, after the pump shut off, I'd seen something strange. The total price displayed had been in old currency, dollars and cents from pricing that hadn't been current in over a decade, like the pump had never been updated, or like it was still operating in the past. I told myself it was just an old machine, never upgraded. That explanation worked. It had to work. Because the alternative was that I'd stopped at a place that shouldn't have been operational, that I'd walked into a building that should have been cold and dead, that I'd pumped fuel from tanks that should have been empty. And if that was true, then what had I actually put in my tank? What was keeping my rig running? I didn't sleep well that night. Every sound outside made me tense. Every shift in the wind sounded like footsteps. And when I finally did drift off, I dreamed about that station, about walking inside and finding it full of people, all of them standing still, watching me. None of them speaking, none of them moving, just watching, waiting. I woke up at 4 a.m., sweating despite the cold. Sat up in the sleeper, checked my surroundings. Truck stop parking lot, other rigs nearby. Security lights casting everything in harsh white glow. Normal, safe. I checked my phone. Message from Rook, sent an hour ago. Hey, looked into Everett's more. Found something weird. Call me when you can. I called him. He answered on the second ring, voice groggy. Jules? Yeah. Sorry, should have waited until morning. What did you find? I talked to a buddy who works for the utility company. Asked him about the power situation at Everett's. He pulled up the records. The property's been disconnected since March 2021. But here's the thing. The meter's still recording usage. What do you mean? I mean, the power's supposedly off, lines disconnected, but the meter at that location is still showing consumption. Small amounts, sporadic. Like someone's drawing power even though technically there's nothing to draw from. How is that possible? It's not. According to the utility company, it's a glitch. Meters malfunction sometimes, show phantom readings. They've sent technicians out twice to investigate. Both times, they found the site abandoned. No active connections, meter inactive. But then a month later, the readings start up again. I process that. So, either the meter's broken, or someone's accessing power illegally. Or something else is going on that doesn't fit normal explanations. Rook, I don't believe in ghosts. Neither do I. But I believe in things we don't understand yet, and I believe that area has a history of weird incidents. Enough that I'm telling you to be careful. Check your fuel quality again. Monitor your engine. And if anything feels off, anything at all, pull over and call for assistance. Will do. And Jules, don't go back there. Whatever that place is, whether it's squatters or something else, it's not worth the risk. Use official stations from now on. Trust me, I wasn't planning a return visit. We ended the call. I sat in my sleeper, watching dawnlight creep across the parking lot. Other drivers were starting to move, engines firing up, rigs pulling out to continue their routes. I did my morning inspection, checked the fuel again. Still clean, still normal. Engine started smooth, no issues. Whatever I'd pumped at Everett's, it was working fine. I told myself that was enough, that I'd gotten fuel when I needed it, and now I was moving on. The circumstances were strange, but the outcome was positive. No harm done. But as I pulled out of the truck stop and headed north toward the mining site, I couldn't stop thinking about those lights, about the warmth inside that building, about the pump that worked despite having no power, about the feeling that I'd been watched the entire time I was there, even though I never saw another person. And I wondered, not for the first time and not for the last, what else might be out there on these roads. What other places existed in the gaps between maps and memory? What other stations stayed open long after they should have closed? I didn't have answers, just questions and a full tank of fuel that shouldn't have been possible to obtain, and the growing certainty that I'd crossed some kind of line, stepped into something that didn't follow normal rules, and the only reason I'd gotten out was because I'd left quickly, before whatever maintained that place decided I shouldn't leave at all. The road stretched ahead, white and endless. I drove toward the job, toward the mine, toward concrete work and solid reality. But part of my mind stayed behind, back at that station with its impossible lights and its phantom fuel, back in a place that shouldn't exist, serving drivers who needed it anyway, back at Everett's. The delivery at the mining site went smoothly. I offloaded the equipment, got my paperwork signed, grabbed a hot meal in their cafeteria. The site manager mentioned they'd had supply delays all month due to weather. Seemed grateful to have the shipment on time. I stayed overnight in their driver quarters, actual bed and shower, which was luxury after days on the road. Got a full 8 hours of sleep, no dreams this time. Woke up feeling almost normal. The return trip started well. Clear weather, decent roads, empty trailer making for easy handling. I took a different route south, avoiding the area around Everett's entirely. Longer by about 40 miles, but worth it for peace of mind. I checked in with the dispatch mid-morning. Jules here, heading south on the eastern route, should reach Fort Nelson by evening. Copy that. How's the fuel situation? I glanced at the gauge, still showing 3/4 full. Good, plenty to reach the next station. Glad to hear it. We got a report this morning about Everett's. Thought you'd want to know. Oh. My chest tightened. What kind of report? Another driver stopped there yesterday. Same situation as yours. Found it operational, no attendant, self-service. He also checked later and found out it's supposed to be closed. Did he talk to anyone? Figure out who's running it? No, but he mentioned something strange. Said the place smelled wrong. Wrong how? Not like diesel or oil. Something else. He couldn't place it. Said it was sweet, almost floral. Made him uncomfortable enough that he cut his stop short, only took partial fuel. Sweet smell, floral. That didn't match anything I'd noticed. When I'd been there, the place had smelled like what you'd expect. Fuel, dust, old building. Nothing unusual. Did he report any issues with his fuel quality? I asked. No, rig's running fine, same as yours. Whatever they're pumping, it's legitimate diesel. Good to know. Thanks for the update. Stay safe out there. I continued driving, but the conversation stuck with me. Another driver experiencing the same thing. That made at least 5 of us based on the forum posts and now this new report. 5 drivers stopping at a place that shouldn't be operational. The squatter theory still made the most sense. Someone was using the abandoned property to run an illegal fuel operation. They probably cleaned it up between customers, made it look presentable enough. The sweet smell could have been cleaning products, air freshener trying to mask mustiness. But why? Running an illegal fuel station in the middle of nowhere seemed like more effort than profit. You'd get maybe 1 customer per week if you were lucky. Cost of maintaining the pumps, acquiring fuel, keeping power running somehow. It didn't add up economically, unless they were stealing the fuel. Siphoning from the old underground tanks that had been filled before the place closed. That would explain the operational pumps and the availability of diesel. But storage tanks don't stay good forever. 2 years is a long time for fuel to sit unused. It degrades, gets contaminated. Yet, my rig was running perfectly. No engine issues, no performance problems. The fuel was clean. I was overthinking this, had to be. I'd gotten fuel, paid for it, continued my journey. That was the reality. Everything else was speculation. Around noon, my phone rang. Rook again. "Jules, got more information for you. I'm starting to think you're spending too much time researching this." "Maybe, but I talked to Everett's daughter. She handles the estate." That got my attention. "What did she say?" "She confirmed the place has been closed since her father died. No one has authorization to operate it. She's never been out there herself, lives in Vancouver, but she's been paying minimal property taxes to keep it from being seized." "Has she received reports of trespassing?" "Not officially, but she mentioned something interesting. The utility company bills still come. Even though service is disconnected, they send monthly statements showing zero usage most of the time. Except every few months there's a spike. Small charge, like someone used power for a few hours." "The phantom meter readings." "Right. She's disputed them every time, claims it's impossible. Utility company eventually waives the charges, blames equipment malfunction. But they keep happening. So someone is accessing power there, has to be. That's the logical explanation. But here's where it gets weird. The property is wired to a junction box about a quarter-mile from the building. To restore power, you'd need to physically reconnect at that junction. It's locked, requires utility company access. Could be picked. Could be. But the utility company checks it whenever they investigate the phantom readings. Every time they find it secure, untampered. No evidence of illegal connection. I didn't know what to make of that. So, how is power getting to the building? I don't know. Neither does the utility company. They've basically written it off as a meter malfunction, even though, technically, the meter's disconnected too. We talked for a few more minutes. Rook suggested I file a formal report with local authorities, let them investigate the potential illegal operation. I agreed, said I'd do it when I got back to base. After we hung up, I pulled up the number for the RCMP detachment nearest to Everett's location. Got voicemail. Left a detailed message explaining the situation, gave them my contact information, suggested they investigate the property. That was all I could do. Let the proper authorities handle it. My part in this was done. I drove through the afternoon, landscape unchanging. White expanses, distant tree lines, occasional wildlife tracks crossing the road. The sun was already setting by 3 p.m. Winter days this short made the hours blur together. Around 5 p.m., as full darkness settled in, I noticed something on my route. There was a truck stop marked on the map, place called Junction Station. I'd passed it on the way north, but hadn't stopped. Now I was approaching it again from the opposite direction. I decided to pull in, grab coffee, stretch my legs. The lot was small but well lit, maybe 6 parking spaces. 2 other rigs were there, drivers probably taking their mandatory rest breaks. I parked, climbed out. The building was newer construction, clean and well maintained. Through the windows I could see a proper counter, shelves stocked with supplies. A woman working the register. Inside, the warmth was immediate. Heater blasting, country music playing from overhead speakers. The woman at the counter looked up as I entered, smiled. She was maybe 40, weathered but friendly. "Evening," she said. "Cold one out there." "That's for sure." I approached the counter. "Coffee?" "Fresh pot, cups over there." She gestured to a self-serve station. I poured a cup, grabbed a pre-wrapped sandwich from the cold case, brought them to the counter. The woman rang me up, took my cash. "Heading north or south?" she asked. "South. Coming back from a delivery run." "Long haul?" "Few days, standard route." She nodded, handed me my change. I was about to leave when something made me ask. "You know anything about Everett's fuel stop? About 80 miles north of here?" Her expression shifted. Not quite closed off, but cautious. I know of it. Why? I stopped there a couple days ago. Needed fuel. Place seemed operational, but I heard later it's been closed for years. She studied me for a moment. Yeah, that place is closed. Has been since old Everett passed. You sure you stopped there? Pretty sure. I mean, I filled my tank somewhere on that route. There's another station about 90 miles north. Might have been that one. Maybe. But I knew it hadn't been. I'd seen the sign, the building. It was Everett's. The woman, whose name tag read Dessa Klein, leaned against the counter. You're not the first driver to mention stopping there. I hear about it maybe once every few months. Someone comes through, says they fueled up at Everett's, didn't think anything of it until someone told them it was closed. What do you make of it? She shrugged. Could be people getting locations confused. Could be someone squatting, running fuel under the table. Or, she trailed off, or it's one of those places, the kind that doesn't follow normal rules. I took a sip of coffee, considering how to respond. You believe in that? Places that exist outside normal physics? I believe these roads are old and strange. I believe there's a lot of empty country out here where weird things happen. And I believe that sometimes when people need something badly enough, they find it, even if it shouldn't be there. That sent a chill through me. That's one way to look at it. You said you filled up there. Your rig running okay? Perfectly fine. Then I wouldn't worry about it. Whatever you pumped, it's working. That's what matters. She paused. But if you ever find yourself low on fuel in that area again, push through to the next station. Don't stop at Everett's. Why? Because the people who stopped there once, they're fine. But the people who stopped there twice, I don't know. I've heard stories. Drivers who went back, who tried to investigate, figure out what was going on. Some of them, they don't come back the same. Come back talking about things that don't make sense. Or they don't come back at all. That's just rumors though, right? No actual confirmed cases. Define confirmed. She straightened up, busied herself organizing receipts. This is a small community. We hear things. And when enough people tell similar stories, I start paying attention. I finished my coffee, thanked her for the warning. Went back to my rig, sat in the cab thinking. Dessa's words echoed. Places that exist outside normal rules. What did that even mean? How could a place exist outside physics? It couldn't. That wasn't how reality worked. Buildings needed power. Pumps needed electricity. Fuel needed to come from somewhere. All of it required physical infrastructure. Maintained by actual people. The squatter theory still held. Had to. Everything else was superstition. Drivers telling campfire stories to spook each other. I pulled back onto the highway, continued south. Made good time, reached Fort Nelson around 9 p.m. Different truck stop this time, on the southern edge of town. I parked, filed my delivery report with dispatch, settled into my sleeper for the night. Sleep came easier this time. I was tired enough that my brain shut down without spinning through questions and theories. Just deep, blank rest. Until 3 a.m. when my phone woke me up. I fumbled for it in the dark, checked the screen. Unknown number. Different from before, but also local area code. I answered, voice rough with sleep. This is Jules. Silence on the other end. Not dead air. I could hear something. Ambient sound, wind maybe, or breathing. Hello? I said. More silence. Then, faint, I heard it. A mechanical sound, rhythmic, like a pump running. That specific whir-click-whir of fuel being drawn through a hose. My chest tightened. Who is this? The pumping sound continued. In the background, I thought I heard something else. Footsteps? Movement? hard to tell through the phone's speaker. "If this is a prank, it's not funny," I said. The sound stopped, complete silence. Then a voice, male, barely a whisper. "You forgot something." "What? Who is this?" "You forgot something at Everett's. Need to come back for it." "I didn't forget anything. I left cash, filled up, left. There's nothing." The call ended. Deadline. I stared at the phone. Unknown number, no way to call back. I checked the recent calls list. The number showed up, but when I tried to return the call, it said the number was disconnected. I sat there in the darkness of my sleeper, heart racing. Someone was messing with me. Had to be. They'd found out I'd stopped at Everett's, were using it to play games. Truckers did this sometimes, hazing the new guys, creating spooky stories. Except I wasn't new, and this felt targeted. I tried calling Rook, but it was 3 a.m. and he didn't answer. Left a voicemail explaining the call, asking if he'd heard of anyone else receiving strange calls after stopping at Everett's. Sleep didn't come back. I lay there until dawn, watching the truck stop parking lot through my window, watching for anything unusual. But it was just normal activity. Other drivers waking up, starting their rigs, pulling out to continue their routes. At 6 a.m., I gave up trying to rest. Got up, did my morning routine, grabbed breakfast from the truck stop. My phone rang as I was paying for coffee. Rook. "Got your message. That's concerning." "You think someone's targeting drivers who stopped at Everett's?" "Maybe, or..." He hesitated. "This is going to sound strange, but hear me out. What if it's automated?" "Automated? What if the station has some kind of system set up? Old phone system, programmed to call numbers that show up in the fuel log. Maybe Everett set it up before he died, meant to use it for following up with customers, and it's still running. That was actually plausible. But the message said I forgot something that's specific. Could be a generic recording, pre-programmed message that goes to anyone who stops there. You forgot something, come back. Gets people to return, maybe spend more money. Except the place is closed. Except someone's clearly using it despite that. If they're running an illegal operation, they might want repeat customers. Might have reprogrammed the old system to do callbacks. It made sense. More sense than any supernatural explanation. An old automated system, still running, making calls based on outdated programming. "What about the pump sounds I heard?" I asked. That was too specific to be a generic recording. Could have been ambient sound from the location. If they called from Everett's itself, you'd hear whatever sounds were there. Pump running for another customer, maybe. At 3 a.m.? These stations serve drivers 24/7. Someone else could have stopped during the night shift. We talked for a few more minutes. Rook promised to ask around, see if other drivers had received similar calls. I thanked him, hung up. The rational explanations kept stacking up. Automated system, ambient sounds, illegal operation. All of it possible. All of it mundane. So why did I still feel like something was wrong? I completed my return trip over the next 2 days. Stayed on major routes, stopped only at well-known stations with visible staff and busy lots. No more isolated stops. No more chances for weird experiences. My rig continued running perfectly. Whatever fuel I'd gotten at Everett's, it was clean and effective. No engine issues, no performance degradation. That should have put my concerns to rest. But I couldn't stop thinking about that phone call. About the voice. Saying I'd forgotten something. About the implication that I needed to return. What would happen if I did go back? If I drove that trail again, pulled up to those pumps, went inside that building? Would I find answers? Would I discover it was just a squatter operation, see the generator they were using, meet the person running it? Or would I find something else? Something that explained why the place seemed warm despite having no heater, why the lights worked despite disconnected power, why drivers kept stopping there and experiencing the same impossible circumstances. Part of me wanted to know, wanted to solve the mystery, to understand what was happening. But a larger part, the part that had kept me alive on these roads for 11 years, told me to leave it alone. Some questions didn't have good answers. Some mysteries were better left unsolved. I reached my home base on the third day, pulled into the company lot, parked my rig, filed my final reports. Everything routine, everything normal. Cleo called me into her office. "Good work on that run. I heard you managed the fuel situation." "Yeah, worked out fine. You still planning to file that RCMP report about Everett's?" "Already did. Left them a detailed message." "Good. We've had 3 drivers report stopping there now. Management wants it investigated. If someone's running an illegal operation, we need to know about it." "Makes sense." She studied me. "You okay? You look tired." "Just a long run. I'm fine. Take a few days off, get some rest. Next job isn't for a week anyway." I agreed, left her office. Went home, a small apartment in town. First thing I did was check my fuel receipts, trying to verify the Everett's transaction. I'd dropped cash through that slot, but I'd kept the pump receipt. Pulled it out now, looked at it closely. Standard thermal paper, numbers printed in fading ink. The amount matched what I remembered. The date was correct, but there was no station name on it. No address, no identification, just the transaction details. Most receipts included that information, but this one was blank except for the fuel amount and price. I checked the forum again, looked for more recent posts about Everett's. Found one from yesterday. A driver describing his experience, almost identical to mine. He'd also tried calling the RCMP, also filed a report. His post ended with, "Anyone else notice the smell? Not like diesel, something else. Made me think of flowers, but wrong. Like flowers left in a closed room too long. Sweet, floral smell." That's what the dispatch report had mentioned, but I hadn't noticed it. When I'd been inside Everett's, everything had smelled normal. Dusty, sure, but not floral, not sweet. Why would different drivers smell different things? Or why would I not smell something that others clearly noticed? I spent the evening researching, looking into sensory discrepancies, how stress and isolation can affect perception, how the brain fills in details, creates coherent narratives from incomplete information, how suggestion can influence memory. Maybe I had smelled something strange, and my brain had filtered it out, focused on more immediate concerns like getting fuel and leaving. Maybe if I thought back carefully, really examined my memory, I'd recall that sweet odor. I tried, closed my eyes, replayed the experience. Walking into the building, feeling the warmth, seeing the dusty shelves, breathing in. What had I smelled? The more I focused, the less certain I became. My memory was fuzzy on that detail. Could have been diesel, could have been must, could have been nothing at all. Or I could be creating false memories, convincing myself I'd smelled something just because others had. I gave up trying to remember. Decided to let it go. I'd reported it to authorities, warned dispatch, done my due diligence. The rest was out of my hands. That night, I slept deeply. No dreams, no disturbances, just solid rest. When I woke up, I felt better, clearer, ready to move on. Then I checked my phone. New voicemail from an unknown number, left at 4 a.m. I played it, static at first, then that sound again. Pumps running, mechanical rhythm. And underneath it, something else. Music? No, not quite. More like humming. Multiple voices, harmonizing in a way that sounded wrong. Not off-key exactly, but off somehow. Like they were using notes that didn't exist in normal scales. Then the whisper. Same voice from before, or maybe different, hard to tell. Still waiting, you know where to find it. Come back. The message ended. I checked the number, disconnected, just like before. I deleted the voicemail, blocked the number for whatever good that would do. Told myself it was harassment, someone's idea of a joke, nothing more. But the humming stuck with me. That wrong harmony. It reminded me of something, but I couldn't place what. Something from a long time ago, from childhood maybe, a memory just out of reach. I decided not to tell Rook about this second call, not to mention it to anyone. What was there to say? Someone was leaving weird voicemails. So what? It wasn't a threat, wasn't anything actionable, just strange. And maybe if I ignored it, it would stop. Maybe whoever was doing this would get bored, move on to other targets. That's what I hoped anyway. But deep down, I knew. This wasn't going to stop. Something about that station, about my stop there, had created a connection, and that connection was pulling at me, trying to draw me back. The question wasn't whether I'd return. The question was whether I'd be able to resist long enough to forget, to let the memory fade, to move on with my life and my work, or whether eventually on some future run, low on fuel and desperate, I'd find myself taking that trail again, pulling up to those pumps, walking into that warm building, and discovering what I'd supposedly forgotten. What was waiting for me there, in that place that shouldn't exist. That place that stayed open even after it closed. That place where the pumps ran and the lights stayed on, and something called out to drivers, promising them what they needed. I didn't want to find out, but I had a feeling I would. Eventually. Because some things, once you've touched them, don't let go. They stay with you. They wait, they call. And sooner or later, you answer. I took 4 days off, stayed local, ran errands, tried to settle back into normal routine. Didn't think about Everett's, didn't check the forums, didn't answer calls from numbers I didn't recognize. On the 5th day, Rook called. His voice was tight. "Jules, I need to tell you something. RCMP went out to Everett's." I sat up straighter. What'd they find? Nothing. Place was locked up tight, no signs of entry. Power's disconnected at the junction like the utility company said. No generator visible. Building's empty, cold. They checked the fuel tanks underground. They're dry, completely empty. Whatever fuel was in them degraded or evaporated years ago. My chest felt tight. That's not possible. I pumped fuel there, so did other drivers. I know, they know. But there's no fuel on the property. RCMP even brought in detection equipment. No residual petroleum, no recent contamination. The tanks are bone dry and have been for at least a year, probably longer. Then where did the fuel come from? That's what they want to know. They're treating it as a fraud investigation now. Someone's using the location's reputation to scam drivers somehow. They think maybe there's a hidden tank truck nearby, portable pump setup. You drive in, they assess whether you're alone, then they roll out temporary equipment, service you, take your cash, roll out before you leave. But I was there for maybe 15 minutes, and I didn't see anyone. No vehicles, no equipment. They're working the theory that there's a team. Spotter watches the trail. When you approach, they signal. Team sets up fast. You pull up, pumps are ready. You go inside to check, they stay hidden. You come back out, everything seems normal. You pump, you pay, you leave. They pack up, disappear into the forest. It was elaborate, but possible. More possible than any supernatural explanation. What about the power, the lights I saw? battery-powered LEDs. You can get them to mimic building lights pretty convincingly. Same with the heater effect. Portable unit, battery-powered, they stage it to seem operational. Why would anyone go to that much trouble? The profit margin can't be worth it. It is if they're selling stolen fuel, or if the fuel isn't really fuel. That stopped me. What do you mean? RCMP wants you to bring your rig in. They want to test what's in your tank. Make sure it's actually diesel and not something that just mimics diesel's properties. Some chemical mixtures can burn like fuel but are cheaper to produce. If they're running that kind of scam, they could be making serious money. My rig's been running fine for almost a week on whatever I pumped. If it wasn't real diesel, I'd have noticed issues by now. Maybe, maybe not. Some of these fake fuels are getting sophisticated. They'll run an engine just fine short term. Long term, they destroy the fuel system, but that takes months to show up. By then, you can't trace it back to where you got it. I agreed to bring the rig in. RCMP met me at a station 2 days later, took samples from my tank. Professional setup, proper equipment. They said results would take a week. While I waited, I did more research. Looked into fuel fraud, chemical mixtures, scam operations targeting truckers. Found dozens of cases, some going back decades. It was a real problem, not just paranoia. The rational explanations were stacking up. Portable equipment, battery lights, fake fuel, coordinated teams. All of it possible. All of it explaining what I'd experienced. I should have felt relieved, should have been satisfied that there was a logical answer. But something still bothered me. Something about the experience that didn't fit the scam theory. The logbook. I'd signed it, dated it. If this was a scam operation, why maintain a logbook? That was evidence, paper trail. Any criminal with sense would avoid creating documentation. Unless the logbook was fake too. Part of the staging meant to make the operation seem legitimate, to put drivers at ease. The test results came back. I got a call from the RCMP officer who'd handled the investigation. Mr. Taryn, your fuel tests came back. It's legitimate diesel, high quality actually, better than what you'd get at most commercial stations. So, it's not fake? No, it's real diesel, which means wherever you got it, they had access to legitimate fuel supply. That changes our investigation parameters. Changes them how? We're now looking at possible hijacked shipments. Someone stealing fuel from transport trucks, storing it somewhere, reselling it through operations like Everett's. It's a bigger operation than we initially thought. He asked me more questions. Details about the pumps, the equipment, anything unusual I'd noticed. I answered as best I could, but my memories were getting fuzzy. The more time passed, the less certain I was about specific details. Had the pump display been digital or analog? I thought analog, but couldn't be sure. Had there been a price sign visible? Maybe. What about security cameras? I didn't remember seeing any, but I hadn't specifically looked. After the call, I sat with my uncertainty. The fuel was real, that was confirmed, so someone was operating Everett's as an illegal fuel station using legitimate diesel. That was the official conclusion. But it didn't explain everything. It didn't explain the utility meter showing phantom usage. It didn't explain how power was reaching the building when the connection was physically severed. It didn't explain the phone calls at 3 a.m. with their strange humming and pump sounds. I tried calling the number back. Still disconnected. Checked my phone records. The calls were listed, but when I tried to trace them, I hit dead ends. Numbers that didn't exist in any database. Spoofing. That was possible. Scammers spoofed numbers all the time. Made calls appear to come from local area codes when they were really from overseas call centers. But why target me specifically? Why make cryptic calls about forgetting something? What did they gain from that? Unless it was meant to lure me back. To make another purchase. psychological manipulation. Get me curious, get me questioning, get me to return. If that was the goal, it was working. I couldn't stop thinking about the place, about going back, seeing it again, understanding what was really happening there. I mentioned this to Rook during one of our calls. He was blunt. Don't. Jules, seriously, don't go back there. Whatever's happening, law enforcement is handling it. You don't need to play detective. I just want to understand. Some things you don't need to understand. You got fuel, you paid for it, your rig's fine, that's enough. Move on. He was right. I knew he was right. But the pull was there, growing stronger, like an itch I couldn't scratch. I took another haul north, different route again. Stayed far from the Everett's area. The job went smooth. Standard delivery, no issues. But the whole time I was aware of where that location was. How far away, what roads would take me there, how long it would take to detour. I didn't detour, stayed en route, completed the job. But the awareness remained. On the return trip, I stopped at Junction Station again. Dessa was working the counter. She recognized me, nodded. "You're back. Good to see you made it." Why wouldn't I? She shrugged. The drivers who go back to Everett's, not all of them keep driving afterwards. I didn't go back. I know, I can tell. You would have a different look if you had. What kind of look? She considered her words. Changed, like they've seen something they can't unsee. Like they're carrying something heavy they can't put down. That's pretty vague. It is what it is. She rang up my coffee. "You still getting those phone calls?" I hadn't mentioned the calls to her before. "How did you know about that?" "Other drivers mention it. Ones who stopped at Everett's. They get calls, usually at night. Usually says the same thing. Come back. You forgot something." What did they forget? Nothing. They didn't forget anything. It's just what it says, trying to get them to return. Has anyone actually gone back? Her expression darkened. Few have. Like I said, they don't come back the same. Come back how? Quiet. Distant. Like part of them stayed there. Some quit driving entirely. Some keep driving, but won't talk about what they saw. One guy, he came through here about 6 months after his return trip to Everett's. I asked him what happened. He just looked at me and said, "It's still there, even when it's not." I paid for my coffee, left. But her words stayed with me. It's still there, even when it's not. What did that mean? Back on the road, I tried to focus, watch the highway, check the mirrors, monitor the gauges. Routine tasks to keep my mind occupied. But my thoughts kept drifting back. The phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Then, figuring it might be dispatch with a new assignment, I picked up. Jules Taryn. Silence. Then that sound. Pumps running. That mechanical rhythm I'd come to recognize. "I'm blocking this number," I said. "Can't block what's already connected." The voice was clearer this time. Male, middle-aged, almost familiar but not quite. "Connected to what?" "You stopped. You took fuel. That creates a link. Can't break it by blocking numbers. Can't break it by staying away. This is harassment. I'm reporting this to the police. They can't help you. They investigated, found nothing. Because there's nothing to find in the way they're looking. They're searching for criminals, for equipment, for rational explanations. And what should they be searching for? Understanding. The place exists because it's needed. Drivers need fuel, it provides. That's the arrangement, has been for a long time. Everett's been closed for 2 years. Everett's was never the point. The building is just a building. What matters is the need. When someone needs fuel badly enough, When they're desperate and alone and the usual options aren't available, the place becomes available too. That's not how reality works, isn't it? You've driven these roads for years. You've seen strange things. Empty stretches where your GPS loses signal. Weather that changes too fast. Places that seem familiar but you can't remember why. Reality up here isn't as solid as you think. I wanted to argue, but something in me hesitated. I had seen strange things over the years. Moments where the landscape seemed wrong, where time felt stretched, where I could have sworn I passed the same landmark twice despite driving straight. I'd always dismissed it. Fatigue, isolation, monotony. Easy explanations. "What do you want?" I asked. "We want you to understand. The fuel you took wasn't free. Nothing is, there's always a cost. I paid, left cash in the box. That's not the cost we mean. You took something from the place, now the place needs something from you." "What?" "Come back. Find what you forgot. Balance the exchange." "I didn't forget anything." "You did. You just don't remember yet, but you will. And when you do, you'll come back." They always do. The call ended. I tried to call back. Number disconnected. My hands were shaking on the wheel. I pulled over, put the rig in park, sat there, breathing hard. This wasn't just harassment. This was targeted, specific, persistent. Someone knew where I'd been, what I'd done. Someone was following my movements, tracking me. I called Rook, told him about the conversation. He listened without interrupting. "Jules, this is serious. You need to file a full report with RCMP. This goes beyond weird phone calls. Someone's stalking you." "They said the police can't help, that they're looking in the wrong places." Of course they'd say that. It's psychological manipulation. Trying to isolate you, make you think you can't trust authorities. Classic predator behavior. What if they're right, though? What if there's something at Everett's that the police can't find because they don't know how to look for it? Jules, listen to yourself. You're starting to believe their narrative. That's exactly what they want. Don't give them that power. He was right. I knew he was right. But the doubt was there now, planted and growing. I completed my route, got home, filed a detailed report with RCMP about the phone calls. They took it seriously, said they'd investigate. But I could tell they thought it was just harassment, nothing actionable. Days passed, then a week. The calls stopped, no more voicemails, no more strange numbers. Maybe filing the report had worked. Maybe whoever was behind it had backed off. I took another job. Routine haul, nothing special. But the route took me north again, and I found myself checking the map, looking at where Everett's was, calculating how far off route it would be to swing by just to look. I didn't detour, stayed on track. But the pull was stronger now. Like a compass needle drawn to north, I could feel that place, could sense its direction even without looking at the map. That scared me more than the phone calls. The idea that I was developing some kind of awareness of its location, that the connection they'd talked about was real. I tried to rationalize it. I'd looked at the map enough times that I'd memorized the location. Simple, geographic knowledge. Nothing supernatural about it, but it didn't feel like memory. It felt like sensing, like knowing where something is because part of you is always oriented toward it. On the return trip, I stopped at a different station. Bigger place, part of a chain, lots of activity. Normal and safe. I fueled up, went inside for coffee. There was another driver there, older guy, weathered face. He was studying a map, marking routes with a pencil. I recognized the habit. Planning fuel stops, calculating distances. I got my coffee, was heading out when he spoke. You ever stop at Everett's? I froze, turned back. Why do you ask? He tapped his map, trying to figure out if it's really there. Keep hearing about it. Some drivers swear by it. Others say it's been closed for years. Can't get a straight answer. It's closed, I said. Officially closed, but... I hesitated. But what? Some people report finding it operational anyway. I'm one of them. Stopped there about 2 weeks ago. Got fuel, paid cash, left. Found out later it shouldn't be possible. He studied me. Your rig still running okay? Yeah, fuel was good quality. Then what's the problem? I don't know. Just feels wrong. Like I stepped into something I wasn't supposed to. He nodded slowly. I've heard that before. My brother-in-law, he stopped there years ago. Back when it was still officially open, old Everett's still alive. Said even then it felt strange. Too quiet, too empty, like the building was holding its breath. Did he go back? No, wouldn't go near it again. Said it watched him leave. Said he could feel it in his mirrors as he drove away. I thanked him, left quickly. His words echoed. It watched him leave. I knew that feeling. I'd felt it too, driving away down that trail. That sense of being observed, of something paying attention as I departed. Back on the road, I tried to shake it off, tried to focus on concrete reality. I had a load to deliver, deadlines to meet, a job to do. The strange experiences at Everett's were just anomalies, weird circumstances that didn't affect my actual work. But that night, sleeping in my cab at a rest stop, I dreamed about the place. Not nightmare exactly, just presence. I was standing in that building, looking at the dusty shelves. Everything was still. No sound, no movement, just stillness. Then I smelled it. Sweet, floral, but wrong. Like flowers that had died and then started growing again, petals rotting and blooming simultaneously. I turned toward the counter. The metal cash box was there, but it was open now, lid raised. Inside wasn't cash. It was something else. Something that moved slightly, pulsed like it was breathing. I tried to look closer, but my perspective wouldn't focus. Like my eyes couldn't quite process what was there. Just shifting shapes and that smell getting stronger. Then a voice, not from any direction, just there. In the room, in my head, everywhere. You left something, need to take it back. I woke up gasping, checked my surroundings. Rest stop, other trucks nearby, security lights. Normal, safe. But the smell lingered, that sweet, wrong, floral scent. I could still smell it, faint, but present. I checked the cab, nothing. Checked outside, normal night air, cold and clean. But the smell was there, in my nose, in my memory. Real or imagined, I couldn't tell anymore. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Just sat there, lights on, watching the lot, watching for anything unusual. But nothing came. Just trucks and drivers and normal highway rest stop activity. Dawn came slowly. I was exhausted but wired. Got coffee from the vending machine, tasted like cardboard, but the caffeine helped. My phone showed a missed call. 4:17 a.m. Unknown number. No voicemail this time. I checked my call log. The number looked different from previous ones, but something about it seemed familiar. Then I realized. The last 4 digits. They matched the mile marker where Everett's trail started. 355. That couldn't be coincidence. Someone was embedding location codes in the phone numbers, trying to reinforce the connection, to remind me where the place was. I deleted the call, blocked the number. Told myself it didn't matter, but I knew. The dreams, the smell, the phone calls, it was all converging, building toward something. The place wanted me back. or something wanted me back there. And the worst part, despite everything, despite the fear and confusion and rational warnings, part of me wanted to go. Wanted to see it again. Wanted to understand what was really there. Wanted to find what I'd supposedly forgotten. Because maybe there was something. Maybe in my hurry to fuel up and leave, I'd left something behind. My receipt? No, I had that. My gloves? I checked, still had them. What could I have left? Or maybe it wasn't about a physical object. Maybe it was something else. Something intangible that I'd picked up without realizing. Something that now created this connection, this pull. I didn't know, but I was going to find out. Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't stop myself. The next job came through dispatch, northern route. It would take me close to that area. Not directly past Everett's, but close enough. Within 20 miles. I could detour, make up an excuse about checking a noise in the trailer. Say I needed to pull off and investigate. 20 miles off route, investigate the station one more time. See it in daylight, with full awareness. Looking for concrete answers. Film everything. Document it. Get proof of what was really there. Then I'd have answers. Then I could move on. I told myself that's what I'd do. Told myself it was about getting closure. About solving the mystery rationally. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was going back because it was calling me. Because the connection they'd talked about was real. Because I'd taken fuel from a place that shouldn't have provided it, and now some kind of balance needed to be restored. I didn't believe in supernatural deaths. Didn't believe in places that existed outside normal physics. But I believed in what I'd experienced. And I believed that something was waiting for me there. Something I needed to face. Something I needed to understand. Even if understanding came with a cost I couldn't predict. The job started in 2 days. 2 days to prepare. 2 days to decide if I was really going to do this. 2 days to convince myself it was a rational choice and not a compulsion. But I already knew. I was going back to Everett's, whether I wanted to or not. And I was going to find out what I'd forgotten, or what had been waiting for me all along. The job was straightforward. Deliver equipment to a forestry operation north of Fort Nelson, return empty. Standard 2-day run. I accepted it without hesitation, even though I knew what I was planning. Rook called the night before I left. "You're taking the northern route again?" "Yeah, standard haul." "Stay on the main highway, Jules. Don't make any detours." "I won't." It was a lie. We both knew it, but he didn't push. Just said to be careful and ended the call. I left at dawn. Clear weather, good conditions. The rig handled smooth, empty trailer, making for easy driving. I made good time, reached the delivery point by early afternoon. Offloaded the equipment, got my paperwork signed, grabbed a quick meal. The return trip started at 3 p.m. I had about 2 hours of daylight left. Enough time to reach Everett's, investigate properly, and get back to the main highway before dark. I told myself I was doing this for closure, to document what was really there, to get evidence, to understand. But my hands were shaking as I drove, and my chest felt tight. This wasn't about rational investigation. This was about compulsion, about answering a call I couldn't ignore. Mile marker 355 appeared in my headlights. I slowed, turned onto the trail. The trees closed in around me, branches scraping the trailer. Snow was deeper here than before. My tracks from 2 weeks ago were long gone, buried under fresh snowfall. The trail seemed longer this time, or maybe time was stretching, anticipation making every second feel extended. I checked the odometer. 2 miles, same as before. But it felt like more. Then the trees opened up, and there it was, Everett's fuel stop. The building looked exactly as I remembered. Same faded sign, same 3 pumps. But something was different. The lights weren't on. The building sat dark, windows reflecting the late afternoon sky. No glow from inside, no signs of operation. I pulled up to the pumps, put the rig in park. Sat there for a moment, engine idling. The place looked abandoned, exactly like the RCMP had described. Locked up, empty, dead. I grabbed my phone, started recording video, climbed out of the cab. The cold hit immediately, wind cutting through my jacket. I approached the building slowly, filming everything. The door was locked. I tried the handle, pushed against it. Solid. Through the window, I could see the interior. Dark, dusty, shelves barely visible in the dim light. The counter where I'd left cash. The metal box still there. Everything looked the same but dormant, like a stage set waiting for actors. I walked around the building, checking windows, looking for any signs of recent activity. Nothing. No footprints in the snow except mine. No tire tracks except my own trail in. No evidence anyone had been here in weeks. I returned to the front, filming the pumps. They looked old, corroded. The display panels were dark, cracked. When I'd been here before, they'd worked perfectly. Now they looked like they hadn't functioned in years. I tried the main door again, still locked. But as I pulled on the handle, I heard something. From inside. Faint, like movement in a back room. I pressed my ear against the door. Silence. Then I heard it again. Not movement. More like breathing. Slow, deep, rhythmic. "Hello?" I called out. "Anyone in there?" No response. Just that breathing sound, continuing steadily. I walked around to the back of the building. There was a rear door, half buried in snow. I kicked the snow away, tried the handle. It turned, unlocked. I hesitated. Every instinct said, "Don't go inside." This was trespassing at minimum, potentially dangerous. But I'd come this far. I needed to see. I pushed the door open. It swung inward with a creak. The interior was dark. I switched on my phone's flashlight, filmed as I entered. The back room was small. Storage area, mostly empty. Some old boxes stacked against one wall, covered in dust. A workbench with rusted tools. Nothing unusual, but that smell. Sweet, floral, wrong. It hit me immediately, stronger than in my dream. The scent filled the air, thick and cloying, like flowers rotting in summer heat, but we were in winter, and the building was freezing. I covered my nose with my jacket, breathed through fabric. The smell persisted, soaking through. I moved through the back room to the doorway leading to the main space. The door was closed. I could hear that breathing sound more clearly now, coming from the other side. I turned the handle slowly, pushed the door open. The main room looked different from this angle. The counter, the shelves, the front door with its dusty window. Everything positioned exactly as I remembered, but the light was wrong. Despite the darkness outside and the lack of electricity, I could see clearly, like the space was generating its own illumination from no visible source. The breathing sound was coming from the corner, behind the counter. I moved closer, phone light sweeping across the floor. There was a shape there, large, indistinct. At first, I thought it was a pile of old coats or blankets. Then it shifted. Not much, just a slight movement, rising and falling with that steady breathing. I stopped. Every nerve in my body screamed to run. But I needed to see, needed to understand what this was. I moved around the counter. The shape resolved as I got closer. It was a person. Someone sitting on the floor, back against the wall, head down, wearing winter clothing, heavy jacket, hood up. "Hey," I said. "You okay?" No response. just that breathing. Steady, mechanical almost. I reached out, touched their shoulder. The fabric was cold, not just cold from winter air, but freezing, like it had been in a freezer. The figure didn't react to my touch. I pulled back my hand, noticed something. There was no condensation from their breath. In this cold, every breath should produce visible vapor, but the air around them was clear. I stepped back, filmed everything. The figure, the room, the strange light, documenting it all. Then I saw the logbook, still on the counter where I'd signed it before. I opened it, flipped through pages. My entry was there. Jules Taryn, dated 2 weeks ago. But there were other entries, more recent, dated within the past week. 3 different names, 3 different dates. All of them fuel purchases, all of them noting the same thing I had. Self-service, paid cash. How was that possible? The RCMP had investigated. The place was locked up. Yet people were still signing this log, still claiming to stop here. I flipped back further, found more entries, going back months, then years. The dates got older, the handwriting changed styles, but the pattern continued. Sporadic entries, always the same format. Name, date, fuel amount. Then I saw it, my name again, but not my recent entry. This one was dated 3 years ago. Jules Taryn, same handwriting, same notation. But I'd never stopped here 3 years ago. I would have remembered. I'd only been here once, 2 weeks ago. I flipped more pages, found my name again. 5 years ago, then 7 years ago. Multiple entries spanning years, all with my signature. My hands were shaking. This wasn't possible. Someone was forging entries using my name, but the handwriting was identical. Exact match to my signature. I looked up from the logbook. The figure in the corner had moved. It was standing now, still facing the wall, hood up, but definitely upright. I hadn't seen it move. One moment it was sitting, next moment standing. "Who are you?" I asked. It turned, slowly. The hood was deep, face hidden in shadow, but I could feel attention focusing on me. Assessing, then it spoke. My voice. Exact match. "You came back." I stumbled backward, hit the counter. The phone nearly slipped from my hand. "What are you?" "What you left behind." "What stays when you leave?" That doesn't make sense, doesn't it? You stopped here, took fuel, took something else too, without knowing. Left a part of yourself. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked. I backed toward the rear door. The figure didn't follow, just stood there watching from the shadow of its hood. Every driver who stops here leaves something. An impression. A possibility. A version of themselves that chose to stay. And we keep them, we maintain them, we are them. I'm leaving now. You are. But part of you isn't. Part of you will always be here, standing at that counter, filling out that log, making the choice to stop again and again across time. I ran, through the back room, out the rear door, into the cold. Sprinted to my rig, climbed up, slammed the door, started the engine, threw it in gear. The tires spun in the snow, then caught. I pulled away fast, too fast, the trailer fishtailing. I didn't slow down until I hit the main highway. Then I pulled over, sat there gasping, checked my mirrors. The trail behind me was empty, no one following, no figure standing in the trees watching. I looked at my phone. The recording had stopped. I checked the file. Corrupted. Unplayable. Nothing but digital noise, of course. Of course, there was no evidence. I drove south. Fast. Didn't stop until I reached Junction Station. Pulled into the lot, killed the engine. Sat there shaking. Dessa came out, saw my rig, approach the driver's side. I rolled down the window. "You went back," she said, not a question. "Yeah. You shouldn't have. I know that now. Did you find what you forgot?" I thought about the logbook, about seeing my name repeated across years, about that figure wearing my face, speaking with my voice. "I don't know what I found." She nodded. "Some drivers, they come back and they can't explain it either. They just know something changed, something's different now, inside them." "What kind of different?" "Like they're sharing space with something else. Like they're not entirely alone in their own head anymore. It passes eventually. For most of them, the feeling fades. They go back to normal. Most of them. Some don't. Some keep hearing it. That place, calling them, drawing them back. They try to resist, but eventually they stop fighting. They take another run north, and then..." She trailed off. "Then what?" "They don't come back. Or they come back wrong. Talking about how they're needed there, how they have to maintain it, how they're part of something bigger than themselves." I thought about that figure, about how it moved without moving, about how it knew things it shouldn't know. "How long has this been happening?" I asked. "As long as there's been roads up here. Longer, probably. The location existed before Everett built his station. He just gave it a form, made it accessible, made it seem normal. But the thing beneath, the thing that actually provides what's needed, that's old. Older than any of us can understand. What is it?" "I don't know. Don't want to know. I just know it's there. And it collects pieces of people who stop, keeps them, uses them. Uses them how?" She looked at me directly. "To make the place seem real. To staff it. To maintain the illusion that it's just a normal station. When you walked in, when you felt warmth, saw lights, smelled fuel, all of that was maintained by the pieces it collected. The impressions of previous drivers, all of them working together to create the experience you needed to have." My stomach turned. "So, when I was inside, you weren't alone. You were surrounded by them. All the versions of all the drivers who'd stopped there over the years, all of them playing their roles, making the station function. But I didn't see anyone. You weren't supposed to. Not that time. Now that you went back, now that you looked closer, now you see. And once you see, you can't unsee." I sat there processing, trying to hold on to rationality, trying to find the logical explanation. But I couldn't, because I'd seen it. I'd seen myself, or a version of myself, standing in that building, speaking with my voice, existing independently. "What do I do?" I asked. "You drive away, you don't go back, you ignore the calls, ignore the dreams, ignore the pull. Eventually, it fades. Eventually, you'll be free of it. And if I can't resist, then you become one of them. Another piece, another version maintained to help the next driver who stops. That's the cost. That's what you pay for taking fuel when you're desperate." I thanked her, pulled back onto the highway, drove through the night, stopping only for mandatory rest breaks. Put as much distance between me and that place as possible. But Dessa was wrong about one thing. It didn't fade. The feeling of being watched, of not being entirely alone, that persisted. Every time I glanced in the rearview mirror, I half expected to see that figure. Every time I closed my eyes, I smelled that sweet, wrong, floral scent. And at night, when I slept, I dreamed. Always the same dream. I was standing in Everett's, behind the counter, writing in the logbook. My hand moving automatically, filling in entries, names I didn't recognize, dates spanning years, and I understood. I was maintaining it now. Part of me was there, trapped, serving the function, helping to create the illusion for the next desperate driver who needed fuel. The calls continued, always at night. Always the same pump sounds, the same whispered words. But now I recognized the voices. They were all mine. Different versions, different iterations. All of them calling from that place, asking me to come back, to complete the connection. I changed my route permanently, refused any jobs that went north, told dispatch I was limiting my territory, focusing on southern runs. They accommodated without question, but it didn't matter, because the pull was still there, growing stronger. I could feel that place, could sense its location regardless of where I was. Like a compass needle, part of my awareness was always pointed north, always oriented toward Everett's. 3 weeks after my return visit, I was making a delivery in southern British Columbia. Nowhere near the Northwest Territories, hundreds of miles from Everett's. I pulled into a rest stop, routine break. There was a rig parked in the corner. Same model as mine, same company markings. I walked past it, heading to the facilities. As I passed the driver's side, I glanced up. Someone was sitting in the cab. Hood up, face in shadow. They turned to look at me. I knew that posture, knew that stillness. It was the figure from Everett's, or something like it. I kept walking, didn't run, didn't react. Just continued to the building, used the facilities, came back out. The rig was gone. The space where it had been parked was empty, snow undisturbed, like it had never been there. But I knew what I'd seen. It had followed me, or it was manifesting closer. The pieces I'd left behind were finding ways to reach further, to maintain the connection across distance. Rook called that night. "Jules, I need to tell you something. Another driver went missing." "Where?" "Near Everett's. He filed a route plan that took him through that area. Never reached his destination. Search teams found his rig on the trail leading to the station. Abandoned, engine cold. No sign of the driver." "When was this?" 3 days ago. They're still searching, but..." He paused. "They found something in his cab. A logbook page, torn from the binding. It had multiple entries with his name on it. Dates going back years, but he'd only been driving for 2 years. My blood went cold. Just like mine. Just like yours. "Jules, what's happening up there?" "I don't know, but I think the place is collecting us, creating copies, maintaining versions of drivers to keep itself functioning." "That's not possible." "I know, but it's happening anyway." We talked for a while longer. Rook wanted me to see a doctor, talk to someone professional. I agreed just to end the conversation, but I knew no doctor could help with this. A week later, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. No subject line, just a single attachment, a photo. I opened it. It showed the inside of Everett's, the counter, the shelves, and standing behind the counter, clear in the strange light, was a figure in winter gear. Hood back, face visible. It was me, exact match, looking directly at the camera, expression blank, eyes empty. Below the image was a single line of text. "Ready when you are." I deleted the email, blocked the sender, but I knew it didn't matter. The message had been received. The invitation was standing. That night I dreamed again. But this time, I wasn't just writing in the logbook. I was greeting a driver, telling them the pumps were operational, watching them fuel up, watching them pay, watching them leave. And I felt satisfied, like I was serving a purpose, like I was part of something important. I woke up feeling sick, because part of me, some small part, had enjoyed it, had wanted to stay in that dream, had wanted to continue serving that function. The pull was winning, slowly but steadily, and I was running out of resistance. Dessa had said it fades for most drivers. But I was beginning to understand. I wasn't most drivers. I'd gone back, I'd looked closer, I'd seen the truth. And once you see it, once you understand what you're part of, you can't unknow it. The question wasn't whether I'd return to Everett's. The question was when. Because I could feel it now, constantly. That place, that need, that function waiting to be fulfilled. And every day, the pull got stronger. Every night, the dreams got more vivid. Every moment, I felt less like myself and more like a version of myself. One of many, all of them oriented toward the same purpose. I don't know how long I can resist. Days, weeks. Eventually, I'll take a job going north. Eventually, I'll find a reason, an excuse, and I'll turn onto that trail. I'll pull up to those pumps. I'll walk into that building, and I'll take my place, behind the counter, in the back room, wherever I'm needed, joining all the other versions, all the other pieces, all of us maintaining the illusion together, keeping Everett's open, keeping it functional, keeping it ready for the next desperate driver who needs fuel. Because that's the cost. That's what you pay for taking something from a place that shouldn't exist. You become part of it. You help maintain it. You give back by becoming one of the pieces that makes it work. I'm writing this down now while I still can, while I'm still mostly myself, before the pull becomes too strong to fight. If you're reading this, if you're a driver on these northern routes, hear my warning. If you're running low on fuel, if you're desperate, if you see a turnoff leading to a station that looks operational but feels wrong, keep driving. Push through to the next official stop. Don't take the easy option, because easy has a price, and that price is more than cash. It's more than fuel. It's pieces of yourself, pieces that get collected, pieces that never leave. I can feel it now, even as I write. That place, calling, needing, ready. And I know, soon, very soon. I'll answer, not because I want to, but because I already did. The version of me that stopped there 2 weeks ago. The version that will stop there next week. The version that stopped there years ago. They're all the same. All connected. All part of the function. Time doesn't work the same there. Choice doesn't work the same. Once you've stopped once, you've always been stopping. Always will be stopping. All versions existing simultaneously. All of them serving their purpose. I understand now why my name appeared in that logbook across years. Because I was there across years. Am there. Will be there, all at once. The driver who went missing? He didn't disappear. He just stopped pretending he was somewhere else. He accepted what he'd always been. What we all become when we take fuel from a place that exists outside normal time. I should be scared, should be fighting harder. But mostly I feel tired. Tired of resisting. Tired of pretending I'm not already part of something bigger. The phone is ringing. Unknown number. I know what it is. I know what it will say. I'm not going to answer. Not yet. I'm going to finish this. Get it down. Send it to someone who might understand. Might warn others. The ringing stopped. Voicemail notification. I'm not going to listen. I know what it says. Ready when you are. And I am ready. Almost. Just need to finish this. Need to get it out. Need to make sure someone knows what happened to Jules Tarrant. Why he stopped driving. Why he disappeared. Because I will disappear. Maybe not today, maybe not this week, but soon. I'll take a run north. I'll turn onto that trail. I'll find myself exactly where I need to be. Where I've always been. Behind the counter at Everett's, maintaining the function. Keeping the pumps running. Keeping the lights on. waiting for the next driver who needs fuel. The phone is ringing again. Same unknown number. This time, I'm going to answer. Not because I have to, because I want to, because part of me is already there, waiting. And it's time to stop fighting the connection. Time to accept what I became the moment I took fuel from a place that doesn't exist. Time to go home. I'm answering now, pressing accept, hearing that familiar sound. Pumps running, mechanical rhythm, and underneath it, harmony. All the voices, all the versions, all of us singing together. And I understand the words now. Finally understand what they're saying. Welcome back? I'm putting down the phone, starting my rig, plotting the route north. Not because I have to, because it's where I belong, where I've always belonged. By the time anyone reads this, I'll be there. Behind the counter, or in the back room, or standing at the pumps. Doesn't matter which. All that matters is the function, the purpose, the need. A driver will come, running low on fuel, desperate, alone. And the station will be there. Operational, warm, ready, and I'll be part of what makes that possible. Part of the illusion, part of the collection. Forever maintaining Everett's, forever keeping it open, forever serving the next driver who needs us. That's the cost, that's the price, and I'm paying it now. See you on the road. Or maybe you'll see me, behind the counter, when you stop at Everett's, when you really need fuel, when you have nowhere else to go. I'll be there, waiting, ready. We all will be.